Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for the first ever edition of One Way Sports. I am P-Way. I will be your host. One man show, you name it. Just simply let me tell you quickly about what we do here. I am a sports addict. I'm not a sports fan. I am addicted to this. There's nothing that I love more in this world than sports. I have since I was 4 or 5 years old. Grew up listening to sports talk radio. Played all the sports growing up as a kid. Just there's nothing better than sports. And if you're listening to this right now, you probably have a similar feeling about you. Whether you're a casual or you're an addict like me, everybody's welcome. Please join in. We'll drop podcasts every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm recording this one at Tuesday, about noon on the Pacific time here. So this will drop. This will come out Wednesday, the day before the first NFL game between Ravens and Chiefs, that AFC Championship game rematch. Quickly about me: I'm born and raised in Las Vegas. I've lived in California, Florida, and Colorado. I'm currently in California now. Big time sports fan. My teams, you can see a couple of them up here. Angels fan for baseball, Golden Knights fan for hockey, obviously being from Vegas. And I am a Lakers fan. And when it comes to football, I am a diehard Chargers fan. You probably are shocked to hear that. There's not many of us out there, at least publicly. I am a diehard Chargers fan, and I have been since the day I was born. And obviously, you can see here over there on my over my shoulder, giant UFC fan as well. So big pay-per-views. We will talk UFC as well, but we will try to keep things pretty season specific here. So it is football season, the best time of the year. There is literally no better time. Summer ends, and what do we get? Football season. So we will talk a bunch of football today. Obviously, if there's basketball news or baseball news or whatever the case may be, we will talk about those things when the case arises and when we feel necessary. But coming up on today's first ever podcast, we will do a full NFL breakdown of all 32 teams. I have storylines, reflections from last year, and then key additions and maybe some departures as well. And then we will talk division winners. I will give you a division winner for each team, and then maybe even give you some playoff predictions and maybe a Super Bowl pick at the end of the pod. But we're going to start things off today. Before we dive into all 32 teams, I wanted to do the 5 storylines that have intrigued me heading into this 2024 season, starting on kickoff on Thursday. Number 5 on that list, we'll start here, is the new kickoff rule. I mean, unless you watch the USFL or you watch the XFL, it probably feels pretty uncomfortable. The preseason was definitely something that I'm still not used to it. I don't know if you guys are at home as well, but it's different. It's a change. Obviously, it's for player safety and to maybe bring that play back. We saw 0 returns in the Super Bowl last year, which nobody likes to see. It's the most exciting play in football when we can get returns. So they've brought it back. Obviously, it's the new style kickoff where you have that landing zone where you must land it in the landing zone. But if you kick it out of the end zone or short of the landing zone, ball immediately gets spotted at the 30. That's different, obviously, from the 25 in years past. I'm intrigued to see. We didn't see a whole lot of explosive plays in preseason. Obviously, not the number one returners out there and maybe not the number one special teams out there. So week 1, I think we see a couple big time returns, maybe some gadget plays. You have a lot of good returners, and then you've added the returner position back into the NFL. We just saw Devin Hester go in to the Hall of Fame this year, which was a beautiful thing, but we've seen less and less returns since he retired, and hopefully this new kickoff can bring some more excitement to the opening play of the game or after scoring plays. But for me, I'm a little cautiously optimistic about this, because if you start seeing teams get gashed left and right, nobody can really block it up. That ball is going to get booted through the end zone, and teams are just going to say, hey, go 70 yards if you want to score a touchdown on us. That's just pretty simple. Number 4, Aaron Rodgers, the return of the 40-year-old 4-time MVP quarterback. Played 4 snaps last season. I think all of us were excited to see what Rodgers would be like in a new place after spending his entire career in Green Bay. That roster is loaded. You saw the defense ball out last year with pretty much just no quarterback play. If we're being completely honest here, and you have a lot of respect for those guys that play the hardest position in sports, but they needed more production from that position. You saw late in the year that the Jets just kind of gave up on themselves. But if they can get Rodgers back healthy this year and a motivated Rodgers, I know we've talked about those spite seasons that Rodgers can come back from. 2 MVPs during the COVID times in 20 and 21. So that high level play is still in that right arm. To me, he's still the most talented thrower of the football I've ever seen in my life. Obviously, going into that 40-year-old season, used to be a lot more mobile in those early years in Green Bay. That has since subsided pretty much altogether. How does he respond from the Achilles injury coming back? I mentioned he's 40 a couple times now, but he's got weapons. This team is loaded for Aaron Rodgers. You got Breece Hall, could be the top running back in the league this year. I think he's going to compete for that rushing title. And then you have Garrett Wilson on the outside. He had 17 in Green Bay and Devontae Adams. He's got a 17 in New York that is absolutely filthy. You've seen the numbers that Garrett Wilson has put up with subpar quarterbacks that are nowhere near Aaron Rodgers' level. If this offensive line can keep Aaron Rodgers healthy, I think their sky is literally the limit for this Jets team. They have that elite defense as well. And this is a big year for Robert Saleh. They kind of need to be successful. So I'm hoping to see Aaron Rodgers stay healthy this year because he's one of the best quarterbacks in football and obviously so fun to watch when he's healthy. Number 3, rookie quarterbacks starting in week 1. I'm going to talk about 3 of them. Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick. Jaden Daniels, the number 2 overall pick. And then Bo Nix starting in Denver. Let's start with Caleb Williams. He was just named a captain for the Bears. Obviously, we've seen him in Hard Knocks all offseason. Big time player. I mean, he's probably maybe the most exciting quarterback to come into the NFL since, I'm going to say, Andrew Luck. And it's warranted. If you watched any of this stuff at USC, the kid is just special. Just so special. I'm excited to see what the speed of the game looks like. He's obviously got one of the best rosters a rookie quarterbacks ever had. You have DJ Moore, you have Keenan Allen, you have DeAndre Swift in the backfield. Elite defense that played great at the end of the year last season. So I'm excited to see what this Bears team can be in the NFC. With Caleb Williams, I think he's going to be dynamic, and he probably will break every single Bears quarterback record this season if he can stay healthy. Number 2, Jaden Daniels. This kid is electrifying. I mean, if you watched any of the college tape last year at LSU, just an absolute freak show. Pretty much was exactly what Lamar Jackson was at Louisville, except he had 2 first-round wide receivers at LSU as well. So Jaden Daniels, they have not had a quarterback pretty much with this level of excitement since Robert Griffin III's rookie season. He obviously balled out that rookie year, has that terrible knee injury, and then we know what happens after that. Kirk Cousins takes over, and the team's kind of been in a spiral since then. New head coach in Dan Quinn, new offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, who has a lot of success with mobile quarterbacks. I'm excited to see what Jaden can do, and he also has a number 1 wide receiver as well in Terry McLaurin, one of the most slept-on players in the NFL. I think he is so good at the wideout position. I'm excited to see what Jaden Daniels does. We'll talk a little bit more about him coming up when we get to the NFC East. And then the last one is Bo Nix. No rookie quarterback has ever started week 1 under a Sean Payton team. Obviously, he had Drew Brees for all those years, so you take out a chunk of that portion of his career. But Bo Nix, most starts ever for a college quarterback of all time, had the struggles early at Auburn, then goes to Oregon and absolutely goes nuclear for 2 years. I believe he had the highest completion percentage in all of college football last year, something like 72%. The dude can spin it, but he's also mobile, which I don't think people give him enough credit for. The dude can move out of the pocket, make some throws on the run, but his accuracy will be the number 1 thing that will lead the Broncos to success this year. If he can protect the football, find those receivers, and they can get complementary defense on the other side. I don't know if my expectations are too high for the Broncos as a team. We'll get to them later as well. But in terms of Bo Nix, I think he could be a very good quarterback in year 1 under Sean Payton. Obviously, a little bit older of a player as well. Very smart, picked up that offense quickly, and then also has Jared Stidham in that room as well to help him out as a veteran in that locker room. So that was number 3. Number 2, it's too easy, but is this the Cowboys last year with Dak Prescott as their quarterback? I don't think it will be. If you look at the Cowboys' options, if they don't re-sign Dak or heck even sign him before this season starts, what do? Jerry Jones is getting older by the minute, by the day, by the hour, whatever you want to say. The dude wants to win, so he claims. I don't know if that actually rings true, if that dude just wants to make all the money in the world. And if he does, credit to him, he's one of the best businessmen in all of sports. But in terms of Dak, they just re-signed CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott cannot be franchise tagged. He will be a free agent this summer no matter what, unless the Cowboys sign him during the season, which he said he's not going to go negotiate during the season. So unless they get this deal done in the next 3-4 days, Dak Prescott is going to be a free agent after this season. Now, there's a lot of opinions out there on Dak. I, for one, think Dak Prescott is a hell of a quarterback. I think he's a hell of a quarterback who's put in the biggest spotlight in all of football. What if he played in Tampa and put up the same numbers? What would you say? You wouldn't say any of the same things you say about Dak Prescott. Now, in big games, he hasn't showed up. I will give you that. That is a fair defense. They have not played well. But to put those performances just on Dak Prescott is ridiculous. That team has not showed up in the playoffs for the last 2 or 3 years at least. But I have belief in Dak, and Dak is a heck of a quarterback. He's been top 5 in MVP, led the league in passing a couple of times. This is a elite quarterback. I think he's anywhere between his top level, his top 5, His mid-level is anywhere between 8 and 12, in my opinion. I think he's that good of a quarterback, and I think the Cowboys must pay him his money. But what they've done is they put him in the position where he has all the leverage. If I'm Dak Prescott, I'm not taking anything less than $60 million a year, because guess what? That's what you're going to get on the open market without a doubt. There will be a couple teams that would be vying for him if he hits free agency. You know, you think of some of those teams, you know, it just doesn't feel like the Cowboys can afford to let Dak Prescott get to free agency, because what do? Like, they don't have, what do they start Cooper Rush next season? Trey Lance, is he ready? They draft a quarterback and play a rookie? It's not going to happen. I think everybody's talking about being the last year with Dak as a Cowboy. I don't buy it. I think Dak Prescott will play this full season out, ball out, and then he'll get paid big time dollars on the open market. Let's see if the Raiders maybe try to throw some money at him if you want. But what are the Raiders going to outbid Jerry Jones? I don't see it happening. Just a thought there, because it will be talked about all season long, but I think it's a nothing burger. I think Dak Prescott will be back with the Cowboys long term going forward. And then number one, it has to be, I don't know how it can't be, the Chiefs going for a three-peat. We have never seen this in the NFL's history. Obviously, we've seen people win back-to-back a plethora of different times. The Patriots did it in the early 2000s with Tom Brady. They won 3 of 4. The Chiefs have won 3 of 5. But it feels real. Like, it feels really real that the Chiefs could possibly just say, fuck it, we're just going to win 3 in a row. Because I'm Patrick Mahomes. That's Andy Reid. We're both Hall of Famers. Chris Jones is a first ballot. And guess what? I still got 87 on the outside. You're going to talk about those 4 guys. What about all the additions they've made this season? Rashee Rice going into year 2. Xavier Worthy, the fastest time ever out of 40. The dude can just burn people down the middle and up the seams. It's ridiculous. And then you also had Hollywood Brown, veteran, can play in the slot, can take the top off, good hands. Now, he will be out week 1, but I'm not worried about that long term. And then you have Pacheco. Is Pacheco going to keep ascending and ascending and ascending? The Chiefs obviously rebuilt their offensive line to be one of the best in football. They still have a great defense with Steve Spagnuolo. I'm not going to underestimate this team, but I think this is the most real it's ever felt. I don't know if that's bias, if it's recency bias. Obviously, the Patriots was 20 years ago, much different NFL back then as well. I don't know how anybody can legitimately sit here and say they're not going to pick the Chiefs to at least be in the AFC Championship game, which they just do every single year. They've literally never not played in the AFC Championship game with Mahomes as their quarterback. That has to be the number one storyline for me going into this season. I think that it's real. I think the Chiefs can do it. And I'd honestly be a little bit more surprised if they don't win it than if somebody else does. Obviously, this is, before week 1, before they've even played the Ravens on Thursday night. But I don't care what they look like in the regular season. When the playoffs start, if you got 15 under center and Andy Reid on that sideline, why are you picking against them? Why? It's just dumb. He's literally lost to 2 quarterbacks ever, Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. He doesn't lose in the playoffs. The Chiefs don't lose in the playoffs. I think they make it back to the Super Bowl at least. Obviously, this is a little bit of a hot take before week 1, but that's just what I feel like sitting here. Obviously, I'm a Chargers fan. I've watched this team just demolish people for years. And I think it continues this year, and it may even look more dominant because this may be the best offense they've ever had, including the ones with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. All right, let's hop in to the 32 team breakdown. We're going to stick with the Chiefs here. They are the defending Super Bowl champions. We're going to start in the AFC West. They deserve that time. I just went over a bunch of their thoughts on a three-peat. They went 11-6 last year, 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years. They ranked 9th in total offense, 6th in passing offense, and 9th in rushing. 19th in rushing, Remember last year when everyone was like, what's wrong with the Chiefs offense? What's wrong with the Chiefs offense? This is the worst the Chiefs offense has ever been. Hey, they ranked 9th in total offense, 6th in passing. They add Hollywood Brown. They added Xavier Worthy. I think this offense is going to be even better this year. And then how about their defense? They ranked 2nd in total defense last year. That is filthy for a team that has the best quarterback in the NFL. That is ridiculous. Steve Spagnuolo dials it up. Now, they do lose L'Jarius Sneed, but guess what? They're one of the best drafting teams in football that gets 0 credit for it. Trent McDuffie will take over that number 1 spot. I have no worries about their back end whatsoever. Steve Spagnuolo will dial it up. He'll put pressure on that people haven't seen. I don't expect their defense to fall off one bit. Chris Jones will continue to dominate. That is evident. Chris Jones dominates no matter what. He missed the first week last year, comes back, has another all-pro season. It's just ridiculous. How good can the offense be? I think this offense has the potential to be the number 1 offense in the league. Obviously, they have Patrick Mahomes, but they have so much speed. And then you add that with Andy Reid's creativity. It's just like, where do you have no idea where everything's coming from. They still have Mecole Hardman too, if I haven't reminded you of that as well. So they have one of the best offensive lines in football, all this speed on the outside. They still have Travis Kelce. I think, honestly, they rely a little bit less on Travis during the regular season this year. Try to use those young wide receivers, those explosive wide receivers to get the chunk plays, to get them into the red zone. Use Pacheco and use Travis Kelce in the red zone and on third down specifically, because if they can keep him healthy and ready to go by the start of the playoffs again, he proved it again in the playoffs last year. He's still that guy. He is the best playoff tight end performer of all time, and I don't even think it's a question. Rob Gronkowski, obviously, could be in the conversation for best tight end. It's those two. But in terms of playoffs, that dude never doesn't show up and catch a touchdown in the playoffs. They're starting a rookie left tackle. Interesting for the Chiefs, but when you have Patrick Mahomes, who reads every defense and can get you out of trouble with his magician-like ability, I don't see it really being an issue. You have all those veterans on that offensive line as well. Andy Reid will dial it up and scheme it up to where he doesn't get exposed. They get him comfortable through the first couple of weeks. We'll see on Thursday night against the Ravens. Great pass rush if he can hold up, but I'd expect them to be just fine. Kelsey's going into year 11. Now, everybody has been saying, maybe not everybody, there's been some conversation for a couple years that, will this be the year that Travis slows down? Is this the year that Travis falls off? No, it's not going to be. Travis Kelce is a first ballot Hall of Famer and is the best tight end in football. No questions asked. You can argue Kittle if you want. I'm going to take Travis Kelce every single day of the week. He's just that good. He obviously has, if you put Kittle in this offense, it probably looks the same as well, but Travis is just that good. I don't see him slowing down at all. I just mentioned, I think they use him a little bit differently in the regular season because he is going into year 11, but I expect Travis Kelce to dominate every single season that he's on the field because he's that good. He's proven it for the last 8 years in a row. Everybody can talk about all the distractions, all this, all that. Nonsense. This dude is a football player through and through, Ohio guy. That dude will be ready for week 1 and will be ready all season. He will not fall off one single bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets another 1,000-yard season. All right, so we already talked about Xavier Worthy, first-round pick, and we already talked about Hollywood Brown. Something that hasn't been talked about with this team and special teams really never gets the love that it does, that it should. Harrison Butker re-signs, easily top 3 kicker in the NFL, has made so many big kicks for them in the playoffs. Great job re-signing him. But what they also did is they brought in Matt Araiza, the punt god, as he was called at San Diego State. Now, some of you may remember 2 years ago, he was drafted by the Bills. There was a rape accusation that was levied on him from his time at SDSU. The last 2 years, he's been fighting this in court, and prosecutors in the offseason decided not to press charges against Araiza because he was never even at that party. So 2 years of his career down the drain, but he does get another opportunity with another high-level team in the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid's always been a guy about second chances. He always gives guys second chances. You think about what he did for Michael Vick down in Philadelphia. He does it again here with Matt Araiza. This dude can straight up punt. If you have not seen this guy punt, absolute weapon from the punting position. And when you're the Chiefs, you're already probably the best team in football, defending Super Bowl champions, and then you add a guy that can flip the field on a dime for you. Absolute weapon for them to pick up. Love that pickup of Matt Araiza. Will help their special teams greatly and help their field position battle, which probably they don't even need that much help. L'Jarius Sneed is traded to the Titans in the offseason for a third-round pick. We touched on that. I don't expect it to have that much of an impact on this team going forward. All right, let's talk Chargers now. My team, 5-12 last year. Missed the playoffs yet again. Brandon Staley fired in week 15 after we got embarrassed on national television, 63-21 by the Raiders, who had an interim coach, Antonio Pierce, at that time. 18 total offense, 17 total defense last year. We sucked. I'll just be honest. We sucked. We were not a good football team. There was no discipline. So much talent wasted yet again. It is what it is. It's the life of a Chargers fan. But guess what? We got Jim Harbaugh. I don't care what the last 25 years of my life looked like. I don't care what anything looked like being a Chargers fan forever. We have Jim Harbaugh. He is the guy that is going to lead the Chargers back to relevance. We'll start there. I'm not going to go crazy. They will be relevant again with Jim Harbaugh. Number one, how can you not watch every press conference this guy does? He is a football guy through and through. he says some of the funniest things I've ever heard of an NFL coach. I'm excited that he's my coach. I'm excited he's back in the NFL. Let's be honest. The more elite coaches, the more high end coaches that we have in the NFL, the better. I mean, this is the best league in the world, and they've just added another one. Harbaugh obviously spent the last couple years, last 8 years at Michigan, led the 49ers from 2011 to 2014 to 3 straight NFC championship games, 1 Super Bowl, 44-19 in the first 3 seasons there. They were a 6-win team, and he comes in and takes them 13 wins straight to the NFC championship game. This dude is a football coach, and I couldn't be more excited as a Chargers fan. If you have any Chargers fans at home listening right now, it just feels different. We feel like a real franchise. The ownership is spending real money on coaches, which we've never done. We bring in Jesse Minter as well. We bring in Ben Herbert, the strength coach. Minter is the defensive coordinator from Michigan as well. So I could not be more happy. I've never been so happy, more optimistic about a Chargers football season starting. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl and make the AFC Championship game this year, but it feels different. It feels like there's some freshness in the air. It feels like we have some direction going forward. Whole new identity with this team. We're going to run the football and play defense. That is what hardball teams do. All you have to do is just look at Baltimore. They do the exact same thing. Run the ball down your throat, play elite defense. I am so excited to see what our new running back and new running scheme looks like. You know, we've had Austin Eckler for the last couple of years. We use him a lot in the pass game as well. But we got power backs now. Gus Edwards, big dog, huge power back. And then you have Dobbins, J.K. Dobbins, who was, missed last season with the Achilles injury. I believe he missed the season before that with an ACL as well. But when this guy's healthy, absolute dynamite electricity. We essentially said, hey, John, we're going to need that running back room. We're going to move it to L.A., and that's what we did. Both cheap guys, both on prove-it deals, one-year deals. Excited to see what that tandem can look like in the backfield, obviously barring health. Greg Roman, new offensive coordinator, had that elite running scheme with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, but didn't really have that passing game to complement it. I wonder what it looks like with Justin Herbert as opposed to a young Lamar Jackson before he developed into the passer that we know him is today. Obviously, Herbert is, in my opinion, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I believe that he has a top 3 arm in the NFL. He's one of the most elite quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think what a run game can do for Herbert will eventually make him into the quarterback that everybody expected him to be after that gigantic rookie season. I will never talk bad about Herbert. I think he will win a Super Bowl for the Chargers. I'll say that. I said that the night he was drafted. I will stick by that. I'm not saying it's next season, but I have no doubt that Harbaugh in this offense with Greg Roman running it will be elite. Now let's talk about the defense. 4 elite edge rushers, 4 of them. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Tuli Tuipolota, and Bud Dupree. Now, Joey never stays healthy. When he is healthy, he's one of the best in the NFL. Khalil Mack had a career-high year last year, just dominated the NFL, was the best player on the Chargers last year, in my opinion. And then you have Tuli, drafted him last year out of USC, an elite edge rusher. And then you have Bud Dupree, who we pick up in the offseason, 4 elite edge rushers, and then depth. So there will always be 2 of those guys, if not 3 on the field at one time. And then you have Derwin in the back end. Derwin James is playing in the wrong era of football, ladies and gentlemen. This dude belongs in the era with Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu and those type of guys. This dude hits people in a different type of way, and he's flagged for it a lot because of it. But I think you add Jesse Minter, who is an elite defensive coordinator. Michigan's defense was sick last year. And then you have those elite edge rushers combined with Derwin's ability to play nickel, to play money, to play in the back end, to play linebacker, to rush the passer. I expect Derwin to have another breakout year. Some people may forget. He was the first team All-Pro as a rookie. This dude was the best safety in the league as a rookie. I hope he can return to form that year. Obviously, it starts with health. Now, Herbert's health, I don't expect it to be a lingering issue all season. If I can't lie that I am a little worried about it. A plantar fascia injury is not something to play around with. But this dude has played through literally every single injury, broken finger, broken ribs, you name it. He plays through it. I expect Herbert to be just fine all season long. All right, let's talk about the additions. We talked about the running backs. I want to talk about McConkey. Ladd McConkey, 2nd-round pick out of Georgia. Dude's a weapon. Dude is a weapon. One of the best route runners in college last season. Can really attack the middle of the field. I think he'll be a safety valve for Justin Herbert if he can stay healthy. Really like what McConkey can bring to this offense. Don't know if my expectations are, you know, first team all rookie as, in his first year, but I expect him to contribute and produce at a high level. He comes from Georgia. He will fit perfectly into this Harbaugh offense. Tough, gritty, will block. I'm excited to see what McConkey brings to the table. And then 2 new tight ends as well. Will Dissly, Hayden Hurst. Will Dissly comes over from Seattle, blocking tight end. Can also catch the ball, but this dude dominates in the run blocking game. Excited to see what the Chargers can do with a real run blocker. And then Hayden Hurst, who was a first-round pick when he was coming out of college, drafted by Baltimore. So our general manager, Joe Ortiz, is familiar with Hayden Hurst. I expect Hayden to be really, really solid. Herbert loves throwing to the tight ends. He loves throwing to the big boys. So expect Hurst to be a red zone threat coming up this season. Bradley Bozeman, new starting center going into his 7th year, was named a captain. Nice to see. Obviously, we had Corey Linsley and had to retire because of some neck injuries, and that was unfortunate, but excited to have Bozeman here. Spent some time in Baltimore, was in Carolina for the last couple of years. Will be a really solid, guy under center for Herbert. Joe Alt, new right tackle. Dude is giant, 6'8", comes from Notre Dame, played left tackle, consensus first-team All-American. Excited to see what he looks like on the right side and see if he can mesh with Trey Pipkins, who's moving over from right tackle into that right guard position on the right side of the line. We talked about Bud Dupree, 53 sacks in 9 seasons. I expect him to be a great depth piece for this Chargers defense. Poona Ford in the middle, run stopper that the Chargers desperately need. We get Denzel Perriman back, named a captain as well. He's going into his 10th season. He was drafted by the San Diego Chargers, left for a couple years, played for the Raiders, played for Houston. He's back playing for us. Love Denzel Perriman. Brings a different type of energy, and this dude will hit you hard every single play. Excited to see what he does. And then one of my biggest questions is what is Quentin Johnston in year 2? Dude was a monster at TCU. Lots of big plays, run after catch ability, you name it, he had it. Big, tall receiver. Just struggled last year with the drops. Just couldn't make the big plays. The Chargers kept trusting him as well. Herbert kept throwing him the ball in big spots. I just think he lost his confidence towards the middle end of last season. I think Harbaugh can reinvest and reestablish that confidence that Quentin Johnston had in himself and be a good football player coming up here this season. And can DJ Chark, can he provide a deep threat for us? Departures, big ones, Keenan Allen, Michael Williams. 2 biggest wide receivers we had on the team. Keenan Allen is a legend. I would be shocked if he's not in the Chargers Ring of Honor one day. He's in my top 5 favorite Chargers of all time. I love Slayer. I always will love Slayer. Keenan's my guy forever. Eckler, we lose Eckler. Kind of started to slow down last year. I'll miss Eckler as well. Obviously, had 38 touchdowns in 2 seasons. So tough to replace a production like that from the running back position. But if they can do it by committee, I think they'll be fine. Lose a couple guys on defense, Sebastian Joseph Day, Eric Kendricks, Kenneth Murray. They replace all those guys with guys that are equal, if not, higher potential. So I'm excited to see what the defense looks like. Chargers, just hoping they'll make the playoffs and be more competitive this year. Just excited to see what Jim Harbaugh looks like in year 1. Let's talk Broncos now. 8-9 last year. How they were 8-9 is ridiculous. That was not a good football team last year. It just goes to show how good of a coach Sean Payton is. Sean Payton is one hell of a football coach. They were 26th in total offense, 29th in total defense. And there was a game late in last season where if they won and somebody else lost, they were almost in a playoff spot. Heck of an 8-9 for Sean Payton, the Broncos there. Biggest storyline has to be Bo Nix. We talked about it in the open. Really excited to see Bo Nix with Sean Payton. Everybody says he's got his new Drew Brees. Nobody's Drew Brees. Stop. Nobody's going to be Drew Brees in that offense. Bo is a completely different player, way more mobile than Drew ever was, but has the accuracy as well. We'll see if he can attack the middle of the field as well as Drew did with Marcus Colson and some of those guys in those good Saints years. Excited to see Bo Nix, veteran guy, mature guy, played a lot of college football, played in a lot of big games, played in the SEC, played at Oregon, obviously. He'll be just fine. I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs or do anything crazy, but I think Broncos fans at the end of the year will be like, hey, I like Bo Nix. We can do something with this guy. Year 2 of Sean Payton finally feels like he's starting to get his guys in. Took over that Nathaniel Hackett dumpster fire of a team. You knew he was never sticking with Russell Wilson as his quarterback. Got some of his guys in there now. This team hasn't made the playoffs since they won the Super Bowl in 2015. So I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs this year, like I said. But if you can see some progression, obviously I know they went 8-9 last year, but if they digress and go 7-10, but look better going forward to the future, I mean, that has to be a win for Broncos fans in their book. How do they navigate? Excuse me. How do they navigate the dead cap money? $53 million in dead cap this year just for Russell Wilson, and then another 32 next year. I believe I read a stat that his dead cap hit is taking up like 20% of the actual cap this season, which is nuts. That's how much Sean Payton didn't want Russell Wilson on the team anymore. $53 million this year, 32 next. Can they build the roster around Bo in these first 2 years with that dead cap money? That remains to be seen. And then, can they get Javonte Williams to break out? Sean Payton loves to run the football. You think about those Mark Ingram teams with Alvin Kamara, had Reggie Bush, as well Deuce McAllister. Like, dude knows how to scheme up running the football. I'd expect him to try to get Javonte as many carries as he can, try to get him involved in the offense, try to be the workhorse of that offense. Be interesting. I'll be intrigued to see if Javonte can break out this year and really explode onto the scene as one of those top 10 backs in the NFL. We mentioned Bo Nix. Troy Franklin, one of Bo Nix's receivers from Oregon, really liked that kid at Oregon, really liked his speed, really liked his route running. Don't know if he's going to be one of their top 2-3 guys this year, but love the depth piece, love the familiarity he has with Bo Nix. You get Josh Reynolds, who spent the last 3 years in Detroit. His numbers for his career aren't crazy. 220 catches, 2,900 yards, 19 touchdowns. Watch Josh Reynolds play football. In big spots, that dude makes big time catches. Jared Goff trusted him in so many spots last season. I think this is a huge weapon for Bo Nix to be able to trust. Another big physical receiver that he can get the ball to. I like that pickup a lot for them as well. This is just a favorite of mine. Audric Estime, running back from Notre Dame, 5th round pick. Just look up a picture of this dude. A tank of a human. A bowling ball. Just a physical freak. Listed as the 3rd running back right now. We'll see how things play out. I'd be shocked if he doesn't get some red zone carries. The dude is a freak show. Absolute beast. They get a new safety in Brandon Jones from Miami. Like that pickup for them. Cody Barton comes over from Washington. He'll be their starting middle linebacker. So they had some pieces on defense as well. John Franklin Myers, 19.5 sacks in 6 seasons. So they've added some new pieces on defense. Once again, I do not expect this team to really make any major noise, but I expect them to look improved in terms of their future. Russell Wilson, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick. That is the number one sign of Sean Payton saying, these are not my guys. Justin Simmons is a hell of a safety. Kareem Jackson, hell of a player. Jerry Jeudy, up and down career so far. Tim Patrick could never stay healthy. But this is Sean Payton saying, hey, we're moving on to different guys here. And we're moving on to the Raiders now as well. They went 8-9 as well. Missed the playoffs. 27th total offense, 15th in total defense. Just a tale of 2 seasons, huh? Start the year with Josh McDaniels. You could tell pretty much right away that this team fucking hated that guy. They did not like Josh McDaniels. And it was evident. It was obvious. I believe, if I remember correctly, Mark Davis called in the team captains before he decided to fire Josh McDaniels. And there wasn't any pushback or any push to keep Josh McDaniels in the building. They moved to Antonio Pierce, who's a dog. I love Antonio Pierce. This dude is a football coach. I love him. And I'm not a Raiders fan. I cannot stand the Raiders. But when you get humans like Antonio Pierce, you got to respect him because this dude's a dog. Made his team run at halftime when he was coaching in high school when they were up like 63-0. Just discipline. Expects a different standard. You saw the Raider way kind of come back there at the end of the year, which a lot of people probably don't know what the Raider way is. I don't necessarily understand it, but for me, it means physical, tough, smart football players. That's what they were when they won their Super Bowls. That's what they were with John Madden. That's what Al Davis was. They want speed as well. I like the culture that Antonio Pierce is building over there in the Raiders. It's just, what do they get from the quarterback position? Gardner Minshew, one of the best internet quarterbacks of all time. The Jorts, The Top Gun glasses, the hugs with his dad. I love him. I love when he starts football games, and I love even more when he wins football games because we always get one of those videos. 13 starts for Indy last year. They went 7-6, 3,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 picks, 62% completion percentage. What's crazy is some people probably forget they convert that fourth down against Houston in week 18. And win that game. They make the playoffs, and Houston doesn't. And we know what Houston did. So Gardner Minshew played pretty well for Indy last year. I don't know how much the Raiders are going to ask him to do besides get Devontae Adams the damn football. If you watch that receiver show, please get 17 the ball. I miss watching 17 ball out. Somebody get him the ball. I'm excited to see Gardner Minshew. But they also had Aiden O'Connell. He's the backup. Played decent for them last year at the end of the season. If Gardner struggles, they go to Aiden right away. I know that locker room really respected him, and that mustache last year, respect to him. Be interesting to see how that quarterback position plays out this year. I hate saying this. Max Crosby is one of my favorite players in the NFL. I hate that he's a Raider. If he played anywhere else, I would be so happy. But this dude is a dog. Does not come off the field. Literally, refuses to come off the field. Obviously has one of the best stories ever. Gets sober, after dealing with some alcoholism for a while. And then just decides he's just going to be maybe the best defensive end in football. I know TJ Watt, Myles Garrett in that conversation. If you're one of those fans, I'm not saying Max is better than them. I personally love Max Crosby. The motor is maybe one of one in the NFL. I think he wins the Defensive Player of the Year this year if the Raiders' defense is decent. And the reason I say that is because they got Christian Wilkins next to him now, who came over from Miami, 20 and a half sacks, 43 tackles for loss, 50 QB hits in 5 seasons. Dude is a game wrecker, Christian Wilkins. And now you put him next to Max Crosby, so it becomes even harder to double Max Crosby on the outside. And even when you do double Max, the dude dominates. And the fact that he's got 2 X's on his last name because he was so big as a kid is fucking sick. I love Max Crosby. I think he wins Defensive Player of the Year this year. Hate the Raiders. Love Max Crosby. They got a new OC in Luke Getsy as well. Comes over from the Bears. I'm sure some of you guys understand what the Bears offense was the last 2 years. We'll see what it looks like with Devontae Adams and Gardner Minshew as well. And then Zamir White, their new running RB1. Just his 3rd season. He's only had 121 carries for 521 yards in a tug in 31 career games. So they're really banking on Zamir White to really take a jump and be their workhorse running back. Can catch some balls out of the backfield. I like him. We'll see what his skill set plays out to be in that tough division. And then their biggest addition, in my opinion, I already mentioned Christian Wilkins on the defensive side, but on the offensive side, Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, man, if you're a college football fan, you know how good this dude is. Started as a true freshman for Georgia and balled as a true freshman at Georgia. Here's his college stats. 175 receptions, 2,500 yards, 26 touchdowns. And then he also had 5 rushing touchdowns in 40 games. 40 games, the dude had 31 career touchdowns, 2,500 receiving yards. And did I mention he's a tight end? He's a freak show. You get the ball in that dude's hands, anything can happen. He can take it to the crib, run you over, run through you. Really excited to see if Brock Bowers can be that same level of player he was at Georgia. Yeah, ankle injury at the end of last year at Georgia, so we'll be excited to see if he can rebound from that and play well. This year, they obviously lose Josh Jacobs in the offseason. No Jimmy G anymore. That wraps up the AFC West preview. The Chiefs are winning the division. If you're picking anybody else, you probably think Patrick Mahomes is having a season-ending injury, which I don't. I will continue to pick the Chiefs until the Chargers prove, or the Raiders or Broncos prove that they're on the Chiefs level. But right now, we all know nobody's on the Chiefs level, especially in this division. It hurts to say as a Chargers fan, but Chiefs are my pick to win the division. Let's go AFC North now. The team that the Chiefs played in the AFC Championship game, the team that the Chiefs play tomorrow night in the opening game, Baltimore Ravens. They won the division last year, 13-4. We know they lost to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game at home, a game that they were in. Zay Flowers fumbles to the end zone. They don't execute very well on offense at all. Lamar doesn't play to his standards, throws a pick in the end zone. And that's the game the Chiefs go back and win the Super Bowl. They did rank 6th in total offense. Once again, they were the number 1 rushing offense and then 6th in total defense. So this is still a damn good football team that I expect to compete at the highest level. Second year of Todd Monken is my biggest storyline. Lamar Jackson, career high in pass attempts, passing yards in 2023. And now they add Derrick Henry. King fucking Henry in Lamar Jackson. I used to literally do this in Madden, and now it's real life. It is crazy that Derrick Henry is now the running back of the Ravens, and he also adds a different element that they've had. I mean, Derrick Henry's been top 5 running back in the NFL for 8 years now. And then you put him next to Lamar Jackson. You imagine that read option. Where are you going? You play defense. Where are you going? You staying with Lamar? Or are you going to Derrick? And then they can run that RPO option off of that and hit their receivers as well. So I cannot wait to see what Derrick Henry looks like in this offense. Can he have 15 touchdowns? I don't know. I'm not going to say he can't. This is Derrick Henry we're talking about with the Ravens offensive line and the Ravens run scheme. Derrick Henry will be a freak show again this year. And then new defensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel leaves, takes the head coaching job in Seattle. Obviously was, a very, very good defensive coordinator for them. Zach Orr is their new defensive coordinator. He was the inside linebackers coach for the last 2 seasons. You look at the Ravens linebackers, Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, dude can clearly coach. Excited to see if it's just kind of rinse and repeat style defense or if they change some things up on the back end or anything like that. I expect the Ravens to be just as good offensively and defensively as they were last year. Derrick Henry's the big addition. Departures. Patrick Queen obviously goes to the division rival and the Steelers. That's a big-time loss. Jadeveon Clowney, who had some big-time sacks, who they signed like right before the season last year. OBJ doesn't really do much for me. Devin Duvernay, they lose their kick returner. And then they lose their 2 running backs, obviously. But when you lose Dobbins and Gus Edwards, but you replace him with King Henry, you're in a good spot. Let's go to the Bengals now. They were 9-8 last year, missed the playoffs. Burrow obviously hurt in week 10, missed the final 7 games. I hate when quarterbacks get hurt. I literally hate when quarterbacks get hurt because, I mean, you're just bummed because Joe Burrow is a cold-blooded killer. That dude is a fucking killer, and he shows up in the big games, and he shows out in the big games. Excited to see Burrow back this year. They ranked 22nd in total offense last year. What do you expect without Burrow? Jake Browning did have some good games. Liked what I saw from him. I think they won that big game in Jacksonville. I think I remember that. And then they ranked 31st in total defense. Their defense was shit last year. I like their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, but I don't know what happened to their defense last year. Maybe it was because of the slow start in Burrow. I don't know. Their defense must improve or else they're not winning. They have no shot of winning this division if their defense is 31st again in the NFL. No shot. Biggest question, gotta be, Jamar Chase going to play week 1? Is he going to play at all? He is not. I think he's scheduled to make a base salary of $1 million this year, which is disgusting. Are you kidding me? Jamar Chase is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, and you can argue with your mama about that. He is. Jamar Chase is a freak show. I believe he's asked for 1 penny more than Justin Jefferson. Why not? Why the fuck not? They're best friends. They balled out at LSU together. They've put up numbers very rarely seen for guys this early in their career. I think Randy Moss and Jerry Rice are some of the guys on that. I mean, when you're in those conversations, you deserve to be paid his money. I think they should pay Jamar right now because if they wait to pay him in the offseason, price tag goes up. It makes no sense. I don't understand why the owners wait. Just pay the dude. If you would have paid Justin Jefferson after year 3, guess what? Would have been cheaper. And you might have been able to keep Danielle Hunter or Kirk Cousins. You wait, and now you pay him even more. Just pay Jamar Chase. Get it over with. Burrow wants him back. I mean, it's just dumb. They're not as good without Jamar Chase, and that's obvious. If you think they're better without Jamar Chase, you're dumb. You don't know anything about football. Burrow coming back from that thumb injury. This is his first full training camp. I think he had the appendicitis last year. Was coming back from the ACL the year before that. So first full training camp, they start really slow. Since Burrow's been there, they start so slow in the first month of the season. Zach Taylor decides to play some more guys in the preseason. Burrow, full training camp. I expect them to come out hot. I don't expect them to start slow because if they start slow again, really hard to get the 1 seed. Really hard to win a division. When you got the Ravens and the Steelers and the Browns in that division, if you start 0-2 or 1-3. T. Higgins. Everybody plays fantasy if you're listening to this right now. T. Higgins is my number 1 sleeper in those late fantasy rounds. Contract year. signed that franchise tag, which he didn't want to, signed it, and then showed up to everything in the offseason. Dude has been working his ass off in the offseason, and he's already a great wide receiver, a great wide receiver. I expect T. Higgins to have a monster year. I expect him to have a career high year. Him and Burrow, especially if they don't get Chase back early, good fucking luck. T. Higgins is a monster, and I expect him to have a breakout year going into that contract here, but I do expect it to be his last year in Cincinnati because they ain't going to be able to pay him $30 million a year when he balls out this year. Zach Moss, new running back 1. He comes over from Indy, had some really good games when Jonathan Taylor was out early in the season last year. 8 starts for Indy last year, 484 carries, 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns in 53 career games. So he's always been the backup running back in all of those spots. I really like Zach Moss, his talent. Can he be the Joe Mixon replacement? That's just pretty much just that simple. Can he be better? You also have Chase Brown as well, who's going into year 2. Can he break out? It's lots of speed from that Chase Brown. You might be hearing about him late in fantasy if he can win over this job or something happens. Besides Zach Moss, you had Mike Gesicki, new tight end there. 7th season he's going into. 28 career touchdowns in 98 games. Just a really solid player. Like Gesicki, he'll catch a couple touchdowns this year from Burrow. Jermaine Burton, 3rd round pick from Bama, wide receiver. I like this guy. I like him a lot. I loved him at Bama. Started his career at Georgia. 132 catches, 2,300 yards, 22 touchdowns in 50 games. I thought he was Milroe's top guy last year. Really like his route running. Older guy, veteran guy. Be interesting to see if he can get into that crowded wide receiver room and make some plays for them coming up this season. Trent Brown, new right tackle. 93 career starts in 9 seasons. Never can have enough good old linemen, especially when you got Burrow in the injury history. Geno Stone comes over from Baltimore, 3 seasons there. Love that pickup from there. 7 picks, 9 pass deflections in 23. He balled out. And then you got Sheldon Rankins, nice guy added to the defensive line depth. They do lose DJ Reader, Tyler Boyd, and Joe Mixon. DJ Reader could be a huge miss for them if they can't fill that production. He's a great defensive tackle, stops the run, can pressure the quarterback. So, and then you lose Boyd, who, doesn't really do much for me. And then Mixon, can you replace this production? Steelers now. Let's talk Steelers, baby. 10-7 last year. Tomlin makes the playoffs again. Lost to the Bills in the wild card. 25th in total offense, 21st in total defense. I mean, the most consistently average team maybe in sports. They're going to win 9 games at least every year. They won 10 last year. But is Tomlin 17 consecutive seasons without a losing record is kind of mind-boggling to think about. Especially when you think about who the quarterback's been for the last couple of years, and those last couple of years of Ben, and the fact that they literally wouldn't let him throw the ball. I don't know if it's going to continue this year. I really don't. If Burrow stays healthy, if the Ravens are just as good as they were last year, and the Browns get their head out of their ass and play quality football for a whole season, I don't see the Steelers going 9-8 this year. Now, I'm going to look like an idiot when Tomlin wins 10 games this year, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I love the Steelers. I love that franchise, love that organization. I don't know. I don't see it this year. Their defense, what are you ever going to pick them to be worse than 5th? They were 21st last year. So can the defense respond this year and play better? I don't know. And what fucking version of Russell Wilson are you getting? Pittsburgh and Russell Wilson feels like the farthest part away from a match made in heaven. But the one thing the Steelers want is they want to win football games. And if Russell Wilson can win football games, putting up 200 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, and Najee and Jalen Warren go crazy, Steelers fans probably be pretty happy. Mike Tomlin wants a quarterback that doesn't turn the football over. Russell Wilson only had 8 picks last year. You probably thought he sucked last year. He only had 8 picks, 23 touchdowns. Now, the Broncos weren't very good, but I don't know how much they're going to ask him to do. I really don't. I don't think they're going to ask him to do a lot. He is not Seattle Russell Wilson. He is so far from it now. He's not going to scramble like he used to. Can still throw the deep ball, though. It's fine. but he's now under Arthur Smith, new offensive coordinators in the last 3 years, obviously as the Falcons head coach. Before that, you know, Titans OC in 19 and 20 when they had the 1 seed with Tannehill as their quarterback. He's going to run the football. Top 10 rushing yards per game the last 2 seasons in Atlanta. Najee, Jaylen Warren. Little thunder and lightning. I always love Najee. Will always love Najee. But they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So, is Najee now in a prove-it year and maybe in his last year in Pittsburgh? I don't think they re-sign him, even if he goes crazy. Because if he goes crazy, somebody's going to try to pay him $12 million, $10 million a year. I don't envision the Steelers doing that. I really don't. Jaylen Warren had some huge games last year. Believe me, I had him in fantasy, and I used to start him over Najee because he could break off and rip off crazy runs. I like Najee for certain situations, and I love Warren. I think Arthur Smith will use them beautifully. Really excited to see if those two guys can really break out under Arthur Smith and allow Russell Wilson to just kind of be a game manager. You also have Fields, Justin Fields. Is he going to have a couple packages, a lot of packages? Are we going to see him every week, specific games? You put the ball in that dude's hands, electricity follows. I'll be intrigued to see how they use him. And if Wilson struggles, we might see Fields this year. Or if Wilson gets hurt, we might see Fields this year. Think we see Fields start at least 1 game this year. That's just my prediction. They pick up Van Jefferson. 6th season he's going into, 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns in 61 games. Always kind of been the 3rd guy. I think he was in Atlanta last year, was in the Rams before that, won a Super Bowl, produced, good player. And then they get Roman Wilson, the rookie from Michigan, wide receiver, got hurt a little bit in camp. I'm excited to see what he can do. You talk about fitting a program from where you come from college. That's Roman Wilson playing for the Steelers. Zach Frazier, new starting center, rookie from West Virginia. This dude literally hopped off the field with a broken leg when he was in college. Steeler, if you ask me. Patrick Queen. They got a linebacker again, fellas. They do. Ryan Shazier, obviously, devastating career-ending injury. Was supposed to be their guy and would have been their guy still to this day, I believe. But they finally get Patrick Queen, and they get him from Baltimore. So you take away one of Baltimore's best defensive players, add him to yours. Patrick Queen fits perfectly in this team. Excited to see what he looks like leading that defense. You also had Cordell Patterson. And why do I talk about Cordell Patterson? Because think about the open, the new kickoff rule. Cordell Patterson is a freak show. Can he be the one that exploits the kickoff rule? I think if there's one person I'm putting my money on, Cordell Patterson. Departures, Deontay Johnson and Allen Robinson, okay. All right. I don't know if that means a whole bunch. Deontay was really good for them, but, dropped a lot of balls and could not catch touchdowns. Allen Robinson doesn't do much for me. They replace him pretty much Van Jefferson. And then literally the whole quarterback room is gone. Kenny Pickett gone, Trubisky gone, Rudolph gone. New era of quarterbacks in Pittsburgh. Excited to see if these quarterbacks have more success than the past ones did. Let's go Browns. 11-6 record last year. Lost to the Texans in the wild card. They got shit stomped by the Texans in the wild card. They didn't even show up at all in that game. But 16 total offense, and then they had the number 1 defense last year and the number 1 passing defense last year. So the defense is sick. The defense is very, very good. Jim Schwartz knows what he's doing. Obviously, you have Myles Garrett and a bunch of other guys that can ball out. But let's be honest. Is Deshaun Watson still good at football? Does anybody know? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. His last good year was in 2020. Well, I'm not going to get into all the things that we all know about as to why he's didn't play a couple of those seasons and whatever. We'll just leave it at that. But I don't know if Deshaun Watson's still good at football. It's been 4 seasons since we've seen him play decent. And even when he was in Houston, he used to put up numbers, but their team sucked. So what do they need from Deshaun now? Really, they just need what Flacco did at the end of last year. Manage the game, try not to turn the ball over as much as Flacco did. That's the one thing people just glossed over is that he threw 8 picks last year in those games that he had. But if Deshaun Watson's still decent at football, the Browns can be really good because their defense is disgusting. It's top 5 in the NFL. It will be dominant again this year, but the whole season relies on Deshaun Watson. Literally the entire season relies on Deshaun Watson. They do have Jameis as their backup now. Jameis, the GOAT of pregame speeches, the guy who makes me want to run through a wall before in a football game. But if you're a Browns fan, you're probably hoping Jameis doesn't play this year because that means Deshaun played well. And then Nick Chubb had that gruesome leg injury last year. I think that was a Monday night football game or a Sunday night football game. It was primetime for sure. That was nasty. On the PUP list, so he's going to miss the first 4 weeks no matter what. Does he come back week 5? And what does he look like when he does? Chubb is a beast. One of the best running backs in football when he's healthy. But that knee injury was nasty. He did come back from a crazy knee injury in college as well, though. So if there's optimism that he can do it again, it will be there. That was well before all the hits he took in Cleveland. But excited to see if he can come back week 5 and maybe produce for them in return to form, because when they run the football well, they're a damn good football team. And then, will the defense carry? Again, if the offense stays stagnant, it's tough to ask that 2 years in a row. I would expect the offense to improve a little bit. I mean, 16th with Flacco and whatever they got from Deshaun and DTR last year. Hopefully they can play, be better. But, I mean, this is the best up and down division in football. It is every year. It has been for a long time. Steelers, Ravens, you can pencil them in for winning record every single season. The Browns, obviously, with Stefanski, have been much better. They pick up Jerry Jeudy. I already told you about Jameis Winston. They get Jordan Hicks to play middle linebacker for them. The Jeudy trade does nothing for me. If you watch his Broncos career, whatever. He was a great receiver at Alabama in college, but he's proved nothing in the NFL. We'll see if Cleveland is the spot for him. I am going to pick the Bengals to win this division. A little bit of a surprise, a little bit going out on a limb. I think they have the best quarterback in this division. I'm a giant Lamar Jackson fan. Hard for me to even say that. But you listen to that Pardon My Take interview that Joe Burrow did when Big Cat and PFT asked him, you feel like people forgot about you? And you look at his face and you hear the tone of voice when he says, yeah, I think people did forget about me. That's a scary proposition. I think Joe Burrow puts up MVP numbers, maybe even finishes top 5 in the MVP. I'm picking the Bengals. Big bounce back year. They win this division. Let's go AFC East now. We talked about Rodgers in the open. Let's talk about the Jets now as a whole. 7-10 last year. 31st in total offense. They fucking sucked on offense last year. It was a shame to watch that offense. But 3rd in total defense. It's kind of just like the same conversation with the Browns in a way. A little bit different of offensive play, if we're being honest. But the only storyline is Rodgers. That is the number 1 storyline, and I told you it was my number 4 storyline for the season. Say whatever you want about what he does off the field. I find most of it pretty funny. If I'm being honest, I think his appearances on McAfee are incredible. Just a funny guy, just clearly, a hippie kind of lifestyle that he lives in the offseason. I don't care. I love it. I think he's funny. Like I said in the open, I think he's the most talented thrower of the football I've ever seen in my life. But he's 40. 40, torn Achilles last year. Didn't have the traditional surgery, kind of did that new age rehab, which I have no problem with. We need medicine to continue and increase because we can't have guys with Achilles continuing to miss 9-12 months. But how good can they be if Rodgers is healthy? This defense is filthy. Filthy. Sauce Gardner, one of the best corners in football. Quinnen Williams, maybe the best defensive tackle now that Aaron Donald is out. In that conversation with Chris Jones. But they got one of the best running backs in football in Breece Hall. Like, he is going to compete for the rushing title this year. I guarantee it if he stays healthy. Then they have Garrett Wilson on the outside. It's not like Rodgers doesn't have a plethora of weapons to throw to if he can stay healthy. They got dogs all over the field. They got Lazard still, one of Rodgers' favorite targets. But it's Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall for me. That is what it is. But we obviously know it lasted 4 plays last year because the O-line couldn't protect Rodgers. Can they protect Rodgers this season. Tyron Smith, new left tackle, 13 years in Dallas. Guy's a 10-time All-Pro. But he started 161 games, had some injury issues the last couple of years. Excuse me. Huge for him to stay healthy. Maybe the most vital part of their line is to keep Tyron Smith healthy. Elijah Vera Tucker, their first-round draft pick, from 2 years ago, torn Achilles last year. He's back. So him and Rodgers both coming back from Achilles. Dude can dominate the line if he can stay healthy. They literally have a brand new O-line, like 4 or 5 guys. John Simpson, 5th season, left guard, started all 17 games for Baltimore last year. Morgan Moses, right tackle, started 14 games for Baltimore last year. So essentially what they've done is just said, we're keeping everybody and we're getting only new offensive linemen, which is smart because that defense was good enough to go to the playoffs last year and good enough to win a Super Bowl last year. And if you don't believe that, go rewatch the tape because they got 0 quarterback play and that defense kept them in most, if not all, of those games. If this fails this year, meaning if they don't win the division, make the playoffs, win a playoff game, one of those things, I think Saleh's done. There's no way he's not. How can he not be? How they kept Zach Wilson as the backup last year, knowing they had a 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming into this year, and they kept Zach Wilson, who they knew sucked at football, or at least sucked in the Jets system. How they kept him as the backup was malpractice last year because that Jets team could have been filthy last year or at least competent if they would have just had a decent quarterback. That leads me to Tyrod Taylor. They got a real backup now. Tyrod Taylor, well-respected veteran backup. If Rodgers misses 4 weeks, you could easily go 3-1 with Tyrod Taylor. 2-2, you're definitely not going 0-4. Tyrod's too good of a veteran player. Finally, they have a backup for Rodgers. And then, what happens with Hassan Reddick? I mean, the Jets put their foot in their mouth with this situation. The Eagles didn't want to pay Reddick, so they trade Reddick to the Jets, and the Jets just thought they were just that Reddick would just show up to camp. He wanted a new deal. The Jets didn't get him a new deal before they made that trade, so he's not even showed up to a single day of camp. Probably missing week 1. I mean, it's Wednesday. It'll be Wednesday when this comes out. I don't expect there to be a resolution. I mean, he's not even showed up to a single meeting, not showing up for a day of training camp. So, what does that situation turn out to be? Is it distracting? What, do they just trade him to somebody else? Who knows? But they could really use a guy like Hassan Reddick's production on that defensive line to make them even better. You had Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle, 5th season, played for San Francisco. Nice little depth piece. You had Chuck Clark in the back end as well. He's going into his 7th season from Baltimore. You lose Jordan Whitehead, Bryce Huff, Carl Lawson, John Franklin Myers from that defense, but I think this defense will be just fine. I think they'll be just fine. You lose Dalvin, who did literally 0 for you, and you finally get rid of Zach Wilson, moving on from the mistake that you made of drafting him number 2 overall. So that's the Jets for you. Excited to see. If Rodgers is healthy, this will be one of the most fun teams to watch all season long because Garrett Wilson is that fucking good. And Breece Hall is that fucking good. They need a real quarterback, though, if they're going to be successful at all. Let's talk Bills. Let's talk Bills, baby. 11-6 last year. I don't know how the fuck they won that division title. 4th straight division title. They won 6 of the last 7 to win that division. The Dolphins just shit the bed so hard at the end of last year, and the Bills win the division. They lose to the Chiefs in the divisional round again. 4th in total offense, 9th in total defense last year. You might remember that the beginning of that season was so shitty because Ken Dorsey was calling plays, and they couldn't do shit. And then Joe Brady takes over, and Josh Allen starts playing like Josh Allen again. Stops turning the ball over. They finally use James Cook, who's like, it's a miracle, a good running back that Ken Dorsey just decided to never throw the ball to and never run the ball with. The Bills will be better this year. But what does the offense look like with a full year of Joe Brady? Are they even better than they were, winning 7 of the last 9 last year? Do people kind of understand them? Remember, he was the offensive coordinator for that LSU team with Burrow, Chase, Jefferson, literally half the NFL right now. He was the offensive coordinator. Then he goes to Carolina with Matt Rule. Doesn't really work out. Didn't really feel like a match made in heaven there. But he got Josh Allen to play some of his best football last year, and he for sure as hell got James Cook to ball out as well. Start of a new era in Buffalo. Big time start of a new era. Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Mitch Morse, all of them gone. That was like 5 of their core pieces that they built their team around. Tre'Davious White also gone. Another core piece. So this is a brand new era. And does it stay a brand new era with Sean McDermott as the head coach? I think so. Damn good football coach. 4 straight division titles. What if he loses it next year? You're just going to fire him? I don't see that happening. They literally just can't beat the Chiefs, which who can besides Burrow? James Cook and Dalton Kincaid. I just talked about James Cook, Dalton Kincaid going into year 2. I think he could be their number 1 target. I really do. I think he could have 100 catches this year. I think he could have double-digit touchdowns. Dude is a very good tight end out of Utah. Had a good year last year. They still have Dawson Knox, so expect them to be more 12 personnel. 1 running back, 2 tight ends. I like this offense. Really do. Because if you, at home, think Josh Allen's overrated, fuck off. You're an idiot. Go watch the playoff games. They don't lose those Chiefs games because of Josh Allen. What would you say if they win that 13-second game, they win the AFC Championship game, and win the Super Bowl that year? You wouldn't say shit. But you continue, people out there continue. I think I saw an article, Josh Allen, most overrated player in football. Miss me with that shit. Josh Allen is the 2nd best quarterback in football. And if you want to argue, go ahead. I'm taking Josh Allen. If I can't have Mahomes, give me 17 in Buffalo. And there's no questions asked. Sorry for that rant. Keon Coleman, rookie wide receiver from Florida State. Can he be Stephon Diggs' replacement? Now, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Stephon Diggs, but can he give them similar production? Keon Coleman had 11 touchdowns last year at Florida State. Dude's a freak show. Played college basketball at Michigan State under Tom Izzo as well. You don't just casually get minutes on a Tom Izzo basketball team. Dude is a freak show athlete and one of the funniest players in the NFL. If you missed that yellow coat press conference, find it and enjoy a nice laugh. They also get Curtis Samuel, 8th season. He's got 22 touchdowns in 91 career games, a little over 3,300 yards. Like Curtis, really like Curtis. Can give you a dynamic, maybe some jet sweep passes, maybe some, he'll play a lot in the slot. Good speed, possession receiver in the middle of the field if he can stay healthy. They had Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who obviously in the offseason said he helped the Rodgers and Mahomes win MVPs, which technically that is correct. He was on the team and caught footballs from them. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Devontae Adams were the reason those 2 guys won MVPs. That's beside the point. I love MVS, veteran player. Had that big time drop against the Eagles. It was, I think, on Monday Night Football last year. Then comes back and helps make big plays in the playoffs and helps the Chiefs win a Super Bowl. Von Miller, can he return to form? 0 sacks in 12 games last year. This is Von Miller we're talking about. Now, much older. Lots of injuries recently. I hope Von Miller can get back to where, we know him to be. Let's go. Obviously, they lost Diggs, and I already mentioned all the guys they lost. They also lost Leonard Floyd on that defense. I don't know if any of those are as big as Diggs in terms of his relationship with Josh Allen. Was it as good as we really thought it was? I don't know. Does Josh Allen ascend without Stephon Diggs and kind of that, I don't want to call it a headache, but that, what the dynamic was on that sideline. Stephon Diggs wants the ball. Josh Allen wants to win games. So what does it look like without Stephon Diggs there? All right, moving on. Miami, 11-6 last year. Once again, I don't know how the fuck they didn't win the division. Lost in the wild card to the Chiefs. Number 1 total offense. Number 1 passing. Number 6 rushing. Number 10 total defense. And guess what the fucking men in the playoffs? Not shit. Because when you have that much speed, but you have 0 physicality on your team, and you go into a 30-degree game in Kansas City, you're going to get bullied. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. I love Mike McDaniel. Love their skill players. But you need dogs. You need physical dogs out there in the playoffs. I don't know if they have any of that. You think about L'Jarius Sneed punking Tyreek Hill in that playoff game. We'll see. And the number 1 question for me that nobody wants to talk about, nobody. Tua played all 17 last year. Is he just a 17-game-a-season quarterback now? Because before that, people were talking about him needing to retire because he couldn't stay healthy with the concussion problems and the hip problem. So now he's just a 17 game a season quarterback, no questions asked. This team is not good if Tua is not healthy. I'm telling you right now. I don't care who their backup quarterback is. They need, I think it's Skylar Thompson still. He ain't Tua. Tua makes this offense go because he's so accurate and he gets the ball out quick and he can hit the receivers. So if Tua doesn't stay healthy, this team is going to be shit. I promise you. Will they be able to run the ball in big spots? I don't think so because they got all speed backs. Mostert and A-Chain, congratulations. They run 23 miles an hour. They can't run through a motherfucker face like Marshawn Lynch did. They can't. And you think about Marshawn Lynch and those Seattle teams, that's how they won Super Bowls in one playoff games. Run through a motherfucker face. I don't think they can run the ball in big spots, and therefore I don't think they're going to win big playoff games. What does this team look like in November and December? Remember last year, Tennessee, they're literally winning by, two touchdowns, and then they just shit the bed, and Will Levis has the best comeback of his career. That's what I'm talking about. They go at Green Bay, late November, at Cleveland, late December, and then they go to the Jets the first week of the new year. You picking them to win any of those games? I'm not. I don't care what those teams look like. Cold weather, November, December, does not play with this team. It doesn't. It doesn't. History shows us that. And when you have that much speed, we'll see if it can win a Super Bowl. They need to play in domes. What does the defense look like now under Anthony Weaver? Defense hated Vic Fangio last year. Why? Not sure. Because that guy's a good DC. But the defense fucking hated him. He was the defensive line and assistant head coach in Baltimore for the last 3 seasons. So it seems like they're going to bring a different style defense to Miami this year. Still have Jalen Ramsey on that backside. You got Jalen Phillips as well. Love that edge rusher, young edge rusher. Lose Christian Wilkins. We'll see. Lose Jerome Baker. We'll see. We'll see what this team looks like. You add Jordan Poyer on the back end, veteran, 13th season. Last 7 years in the division in Buffalo. So he's familiar with all these teams as well. Calais Campbell, veteran, 17th season for Big Calais. Still had 6.5 tackles and 6.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss last year. So Benito Jones, nose tackle, OBJ. I don't expect him to do anything for them this year. Jonnu Smith, new tight end, maybe more physical for them. So, they added some pieces. We'll see. But it's all about Tua's health. If Tua's not healthy, there's no point in talking about Miami. They lost Andrew Van Ginkel as well. So, they lost some guys on the defensive end. And we'll see if, Anthony Weaver in this new scheme can, bring them success. They're top 10 defense last year. I don't know if I expect that to happen again last year because, again this year because of the pieces they've lost. But we'll see. Miami, good ball club. But if Tua's not healthy, don't mean shit. All right, let's talk Patriots. This is going to be so fast. 4-13 last year, 30th in total offense. As bad as Bill was offensively putting this team together, they still were 7th in total defense last year. Gerard Mayo takes over, obviously coached on that defense, knows the Belichick system, or at least knows that defense and how he wants to run it. I think the defense will be just fine. You still got Christian Gonzalez on that backside who will have a breakout year at corner. I think their defense will be fine. Will it win games? No. First time no Belichick on the sideline since 1999. That's insane. I don't even know what it's going to be like to watch a Patriots game and somebody else is throwing the challenge flags. Probably not as aggressively and mad at the ground as Belichick did. How long until they play Drake May? Now, if you listen to ESPN and all those big talk shows, everyone's saying don't play in the first 4 weeks because of how tough the schedule is. At Cincinnati, home for Seattle, at Jets, at Niners. I probably wouldn't play a rookie quarterback either. But if you think you're just going to throw them in week 5, I don't know if that's like their first 8 games here. My question is are they going to start 0-8? So at the Bengals, home for the Seahawks, at the Jets, at the 49ers. Then they go home Miami, home Houston, home Jacksonville, home Jets. Those are their first 8 games. Are you picking them to win a single one? Fuck no. Hell no, you're not. And neither am I. They might win. They might be 0-8 going to Tennessee and they might win that game at Tennessee. But who's going to be starting? Is it still Brissett? Is it May? We'll see. I think the potential for them to start 0-8 is pretty high. I don't see them winning any of those games. You might pick Seattle, but I expect Seattle to be good this year. So, they ain't beating Houston. They're not beating the Jets. I think they're gonna start 0-8. That is my Patriots take. They added Jalen Polk and KJ Osborne on the outside. Polk, rookie from Washington. Osborne has been in Minnesota. I don't know. They traded Judon. Patriots are gonna suck this year. You know it. I know it. There's no point in spending any more time on them. I'm picking the Jets to win this division. I think the fourth straight ends for the Bills. Obviously, this is all predicated on Rodgers. If Rodgers isn't healthy, the Bills are going to win the division, in my opinion. Bills are the second best team in this division. That's my opinion. But if Rodgers is healthy, the Jets are the best team. They have the best defense in the division, and I think they have the best offense if Rodgers can stay healthy. Maybe not most explosive offense, but I think best offense if they can stay healthy with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and all those boys. So Jets, my pick to win the AFC East. Texans, AFC South, the team that was the most fun to watch last year. 10-7, lost to the Ravens in the division round, beat the shit out of the Browns in the wild card. 12th total offense, 7th in passing, 14 total defense. Pretty much Stroud taking them to the Super Bowl this year. You're going to be like, oh, you're crazy, P-Way, you're crazy. All this stuff. Burrow fucking did it a couple years ago. Got hurt in year 1. Takes his team to the Super Bowl in year 2. Beats Mahomes in Kansas City. You're telling me you don't have faith Stroud can do that? I do. I fucking sure as hell do. Because Stroud is that dude. I mean, best rookie quarterback season maybe ever. Probably ever. Can they challenge for the 1 seed? I think so. You play 6 games against the Colts, Jags, and Titans. Should be 5-1 in my opinion in those games. Should be. So we'll see. I think they can challenge for the 1 seed. How good can the defense be with Danielle Hunter? What a pickup getting him from Minnesota. I mentioned they were 14th in total defense, but they were 23rd against the pass, which tells me they couldn't get to the fucking quarterback. They couldn't sack the quarterback. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm not a defensive expert by any means. But how good can this defense be with Danielle Hunter? In case you don't know, Danielle Hunter last year, 16.5 sacks, 22 quarterback hits, 23 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles. I mean, the dude is a fucking monster on the defensive line. Maybe one of the most underrated defensive line players we got in the NFL. In his 8 seasons in Minnesota, 87.5 sacks. So the guy averages 10 sacks a year. I mean, he's going to be a monster addition to that defense. There's no doubt about that. And then my last question is, can Stroud win the MVP this year? Maybe. MVP is a narrative-driven award. But if they get the 1 seed and Stroud balls out, obviously you guys know now, with now only having one number 1 seed in each conference, it's pretty much the MVP is whoever the quarterback is from one of those teams. I fucking hate it. I think it's dumb. But it's the reality of the situation because that's how important the 1 seed is now. So you have to consider that the most valuable, quarterback is when they get the 1 seed. So we'll see. I think Stroud can compete for the MVP. Does he win it? Probably not, but we'll see. Outside of Hunter, they pick up Stephon Diggs in the offseason. He's going into his 10th year. 107 catches, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns in 23 last year. Kind of slowed down at the end of last year. Was weird. Started super hot. And then just kind of tailed off as the season went along. That was weird to me. I didn't really understand what happened there. It kind of felt like his relationship with Allen might have fallen off a little bit, or they just wanted to run the ball more. I'm not sure what happened there. But you also get Joe Mixon, 8th season for Joe. 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns on the ground last year, 375, 3 receptions through the air. Love this pickup for them. Just a veteran. Played in big spots. Will be great in that huddle for them. Good next to Stroud. I think Mixon will have another solid year as long as he stays healthy. They add Azeez Al-Shire, 163 tackles for the Titans last year. Just a tackling machine. And then they lose Jonathan Grenard and Devin Singletary. You pretty much replace Grenard with Danielle Hunter. I think they're in a good spot. Texans in year 2 with D'Amico and CJ are doing just fine. Our reflections from last year on the Colts: 9-8, barely missed the playoffs. They needed that fourth down conversion from Minshew. They didn't get it. 15 total offense, 24 total defense. Obviously, the only question for the Colts this year is, can they get Anthony Richardson to stay healthy? Played 577, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. And then he had 136 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns in those 4 games. So he had 7 touchdowns in 4 games. But he just can't stay healthy. I think he got hurt in every single one of those games. But he's a freak. He's a freak. He looks like Cam Newton running the ball and maybe better. But can he throw? Can he throw? They got receivers. They do. They got receivers. But what did he learn while he was sitting? He sat for a whole year. Lots of time to learn the NFL game, see mistakes, all that stuff. Some iffy plays in preseason, though, if I'm being honest. We'll see. But he's got all the potential in the world. Can he break out and run that Jalen Hurts style system that Steichen ran for Hurts in Philly? That's my biggest question. What does the offense look like also if they can get Richardson to stay healthy with Jonathan Taylor? Jonathan Taylor's still a damn good running back, top 10 in the league without a doubt. What does it look like if they can go read option just like Derrick Henry, Lamar? What does it look like if it's AR and JT and they're both healthy and running wild? That could be filthy. One of the best plays in football. We'll see. Everything relies on Anthony Richardson's health. I mentioned they were 1 play away from maybe making the playoffs last year, but ain't no way the division's going to be this wide open again. There's no shot. The Jaguars stunk at the end of last year. Texans came on late. I just don't see it happening. They had Joe Flacco as their backup, which is so smart because they need a good backup, because I don't think that Richardson will be able to stay healthy for the whole season. I mean, he might miss 2 games. He might miss 8. I don't know. And then they get A.D. Mitchell, second-round pick from Texas. 845 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns for Texas last year. Speed. This dude's electric. Colts fans are going to love this dude. He's wearing number 10. They put him next to Pittman and Alec Pierce. They still got those tight ends, Mo Alley Cox. I think A.D. Mitchell can have a big year if Richardson can stay healthy and they can get him the ball. They lose Zach Moss, which is not really that big of a deal. So there's your Colts breakdown. Jaguars now also 9-8, missed the playoffs after starting 8-3. They were the fucking 1 seed last year. And then they just sucked. Not really. Lawrence got hurt, and they had literally every injury, and Lawrence just couldn't stay healthy, and they just couldn't win games with Beathard, unfortunately. 13 total offense, 22nd total defense, middle of the pack. I fully expect Lawrence to bounce back big time from injuries. Now, am I saying he's going to be an MVP candidate? Hell no. But do I expect Lawrence to be really good with Doug Peterson again? Yeah. Doug Peterson is a hell of a coach, can scheme it up for anybody. Doug Peterson will get this offense back on track. Lawrence come back healthy. New DC, Ryan Nielsen comes over from the Falcons. What kind of punch does first-round pick Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU give them? In case you're not familiar, 1,100 yards and 17 fucking touchdowns last year at LSU. This dude is explosive as shit. Went late in the first round. Could easily, put up the same numbers as Malik Neighbors this year. We'll see. It's going to all be about touches, but I expect Brian Thomas to have a breakout year. Big time rookie year. They haven't won 10 games since 2017. I think if they want to win the division, it's minimum 10 games. They must win 10 games at least if they're going to even sniff the division. So that's just my take. They had Gabe Davis as well. Nice little piece there. Mitch Morse, new starting center. Played 77 games for Buffalo the last 5 years. Eric Armstead, nice pickup defensively. He's going into his 10th year. And then they pick up some back-end help with Darnell Savage and Ronald Darby. We'll see. Jaguars is all about Lawrence health. That's all it is, because they're a good football team when he's healthy. That's for damn sure. All right, let's talk Titans quickly. 6-11 last year, 28 total offense, 17th in defense. They fired Vrabel in the offseason, which, if you ask me, dumb. Vrabel got you the 1 seed with fucking Tannehill as your quarterback. I don't understand that at all. I just really don't. I thought Vrabel was one of the best coaches in the NFL. But regardless, we'll put that aside. Breakout year for Will Levis. This dude's a physical freak. I mean, he's got all the tools to be an NFL quarterback. That's for damn sure. Took over the job in week 8 last year. Started 9 of the final 11 games. Kind of got dinged up in 2 of those last 3 weeks. 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks, 58% completion. So nothing crazy. But he was a rookie. I think D-Hop really liked him. I remember hearing D-Hop talk about, he really liked his poison moxie. I mean, you got Brian Callahan, new head coach. Last 5 seasons, he was the Bengals OC. So, I mean, if he can implement some of that stuff he was doing with Burrow and do it with Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins, why can't this team be decent? I'm not saying they're going to win 10 games, but they can't. Why can't they be 7-10 or 8-9? I don't know. Shoot, Levis has got to play really, really good. And then they have a brand new secondary, literally like a brand new secondary. Jarius Sneed, we talked about him in the Chiefs breakdown, signed a 4-year, $76 million deal in the offseason with them, trying to be their number 1 corner. Quandre Diggs comes over from Seattle. 1-year deal up to $5 million. He'll play safety for them. Ernest Jones, really like this pickup for the Rams. He's only going into his 4th year. 4.5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, 145 tackles at the linebacker position last year. Yeah, we'll see. They also had Kenneth Murray and Sebastian Joseph-Day from the Chargers. Cool. We'll see. Obviously, Calvin Ridley's the big one. They signed him for 4-year, $92 million. He had 76 catches, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns for Jacksonville last year. Like that pickup. He'll be the number 1. Him and D-Hop will trade off being the number 1 for Levis. So, like that, he has 2 options now. And then they get Tony Pollard as well. Don't really understand it. 3 years, $24 million. He had 1,000 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns last year for the Cowboys. And he was the starter all year. Year before that, he had less carries, wasn't the starter, put up better numbers. So I don't really understand what the Titans did, but when you lose Derrick Henry, you need a freaking running back. And so they had Pollard, got to keep him healthy or else it's not going to matter. Pretty easy to find out who I'm picking here. I'm picking the Texans. CJ Stroud's that guy. Easy pick for me. Texans win the AFC South. So that wraps up your AFC side of the preview. So we got Chiefs winning the AFC West. We have the Bengals winning the AFC North. I picked the Jets in the AFC East. And we're sticking with the Texans in the AFC South. And that'll do it for your AFC breakdown. Now, let's talk NFC. 49ers. They won the NFC West. Went to the Super Bowl last year, 12-5, lost to the Chiefs again in overtime. Still don't understand why Kyle Shanahan did not kick the ball off to start overtime, but we're well past that now. 2nd in total offense. They scored 61 offensive touchdowns last year. They averaged 400 yards per game. Shanahan's filthy, especially when you add McCaffrey to that lineup. They were the 4th passing offense, 3rd rushing, and number 1 red zone offense. They're filthy. I mean, the Niners are the Niners. Like, what do we expect them to fall off a cliff this year? Unless Purdy gets hurt, that's not happening. I promise you. They ranked 8th in total defense last year, so their defense is still good. My biggest question, though, is the window closing. You got Ayuk making top dollar. Debo making top dollar. Kittle making top dollar. McCaffrey making top dollar. Bosa making top dollar. And guess what? They still haven't even paid Purdy. So they can't keep this team together like this forever and continue to pay everybody. I don't know. I don't think the window is closing. But if they don't win this year, and then you got to start paying Purdy, no way you're going to be able to keep Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and Trent Williams. Trent Williams just got announced today that they're expected to sign that extension, and he's flying back to San Francisco today on a Tuesday. So great to have him back. Obviously, without him, they're nowhere near as successful. But you're talking about premier left tackle, premier tight end, 2 top-end receivers, the highest-paid running back, and then one of the highest-paid defensive ends. You can't do it. You can't build a roster. And Fred Warner. I forgot about Fred Warner, who also makes a boatload of money. They got to win it this year. I really think they do. I'm not saying they'll never win it with Purdy and Shanahan, but it feels like right now is maybe their best opportunity. They've been in the conference championship game 4 of the last 5 years, 2 Super Bowl appearances, lost to the Chiefs both times, but the Ayuk extension cost them 4 for $120, 76 guaranteed. Was it worth it? We'll find out. You better be the number 1. But then what is Debo? And then Greenlaw, who maybe the most sickening injury I've ever seen on just running onto the field and you tear your Achilles in the Super Bowl. That sucked. When will he be back? He was placed on PUP, so he'll miss the first 4 at least minimum. And then, we'll briefly touch on this. That Ricky Pearsall incident was really scary. Shot through the chest at a mall in San Francisco. Thankfully, he's okay. Placed on the non-football injury list. Hopefully they can get him back healthy and he can play football again and be, productive for them, because they were really high on Pearsall and they drafted him in the first round for a reason. So, just hoping he gets healthy and recovers nicely heading into the season. No real big losses to mention. Nobody that you're going to jump off the page and be like, whoa. They lost Eric Armstead, I guess, that, and Kinlaw, guys that have been there for a couple of years. But I don't know. I think the Niners will be just fine. All right, let's talk to the Rams. 10-7 last year. Lost to the Lions in the wild card. Maybe the best playoff game all last year. That atmosphere was ridiculous. Stafford back in the Lions playing in their first playoff game in forever. What does the defense look like this year without Aaron Donald? What is it? Somebody made the point the other day, were all those defensive coordinators that got coaching jobs actually good, or were they good because they had Aaron Donald? We're about to find out. Now, they do add 2 new guys on the defensive line that were actually teammates in college, both rookies, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk from Florida State, both named starters as well. So there's going to be some continuity there. Can those 2 guys combine to give you the same production as Aaron Donald? But I think he was doubled some like 300 plus times, 500 plus times in the season last year. Like, nobody's going to replicate being doubled that much, leaving your other guys one-on-one. 2 new coordinators. Mike LaFleur comes over from the Jets. He'll be familiar with Sean McVay's offense. Expect that offense to be just as good. Chris Shula, 8th season with the Rams, grandson of Don Shula. That guy's got a crazy football brain. I expect the defense to be fine this year as well. They ranked 20th last year. If they can make some improvements this year, that'll help them maybe possibly win the division. And then Cooper Kupp. Triple Crown winner 2 years ago. Injuries last year. If they can get Cooper Kupp back to Triple Crown, Cooper Kupp and Puka to play like he did last year, watch the fuck out. Because that's maybe 2 of the best, that's 2 of the best receivers in the NFL on the same team with Stafford, who never gets enough love, throwing him the football. Rams, I expect a nice year from them. They also had Blake Corum, 3rd-round pick from Michigan. 56 rushing touchdowns at Michigan. That's the most in their program's history. That team's been playing football since the 1900s. Like, Blake Corum is a monster. A lot of people think don't know if I'm necessarily one of them yet, but a lot of people expect Blake Corum to take over that job eventually at some point in the season. You can kind of already read the tea leaves with Kyron Williams returning punts. Usually you don't want your starting running back returning punts and taking unnecessary hits. We'll see what happens. Add a couple guys in the back end, Tre'Davious White, Cameron Curl. And then they lose Cam Akers, Van Jefferson, and Ernest Jones. So couple departures there, but Rams will be good this year. Might even pick them to win the division. We'll see here coming up in a little bit. Seahawks, 9-8 last year. They were 0-4 versus the Rams in the Niners. So they were 9-4, or excuse me, they were 7-4 against everybody outside their division. Not great. Don't love that. No Pete Carroll for the first time in 14 years this year. Mike McDonald, new head coach. 9 of the last 10 years with the Ravens. Last 2 as the DC. Their defense will be filthy. 100%. Mike McDonald's a hell of a defensive coordinator. Excited to see what Seattle looks like. Maybe getting back to that Legion of Boom type of era of playing just elite defense every single Sunday. Ryan Grubb's new OC. Spent the last 2 years in Washington. See if he can add some new dynamics to this team. Do they have the best wide receiver room in football? We'll find out this year. Jackson Smith and Jigba, freak. Tyler Lockett, freak. DK Metcalf, super freak. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I like their receiving core a lot. Jackson Smith and Jigba, big time year coming, if you ask me. Sam Howell's their new backup. Nice. Happy that he stayed in the league after getting treated like shit by Washington. Byron Murphy, rookie D tackle, listed as a backup. He'll get snaps this year. Dude can just stop the run like nobody's business. And And then they get a couple other guys. Laviska Shenault, depth at wide receiver as well. They lose Drew Luck, Bobby Wagner, and Jamal Adams. They'll be fine. Mike McDonald will have this defense humming without a doubt. Let's talk Cardinals quickly. 4-13 last year, missed the playoffs. They're 1-11 against the division in the last 2 seasons. 1-11. That's dog shit. They were 19th in total offense, 25th in total defense last year. Obviously, Kyler only played 8 games last year, 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 picks. Don't love the 5 picks there, but Kyler's electrifying. If he's healthy, they're going to be pretty damn good. And what does it look like with Marvin Harrison Jr.? Marvin Harrison Jr. has been touted as the most pro-ready wide receiver to come in the NFL in maybe 2 decades. I'm not sure. But Marvin Harrison Jr. could have played in the NFL last year. 100% he could have played in the NFL last year. Probably could have played in the NFL after his freshman year at Ohio State. What will the offense look like with him as the number 1 wide receiver? Can he potentially win Offensive Rookie of the Year? If you're a Cardinals fan, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for progression from Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. And what does this team look like year 2 under Jonathan Gannon? Kyler hasn't played a full season since 2020. Don't love that. Can he play a full season this year? They got to protect him if they're going to make that happen. They got a new right tackle, Jonah Williams from the Bengals. That helps with the Kyler Murray stuff. They had Sean Murphy Bunting in the back end. That's pretty much about it. They had Zay Jones as well, but he's suspended for the first 5 games. So not expecting too much from the Cardinals this year. I am going to pick the 49ers to win this division. I thought long and hard about the Rams. I kind of want to pick the Rams. I'm going to stick with the Niners. But by week 4, you could be hearing me say, fuck, I should have picked the Rams because they're a damn good football team. All right, let's go NFC South. Actually, no, I lied. Let's go NFC East. A division that gets talked about more than any division in football. We're going to start with the Cowboys. 12-5 last year. Got stomped by the fucking Packers in the playoffs last year. Embarrassing. 48-32, I think it was. 5th total offense last year. Number 1 red zone offense. 5th in total defense, but they lose Dan Quinn. They lose Dan Quinn to Washington in the division, funny enough. So Dan Quinn had that defense balling the fuck out the last 3 years, whatever he was there. Deron Bland set the pick record while he was there. Parsons went crazy. Diggs went crazy. He got guys to play at their best level. Now, Mike Zimmer comes over, new defensive coordinator. He was in Dallas from 94 to 06. So he comes back. He's familiar with the building, familiar with the fan base, familiar with all that. Obviously, longtime coach of the Minnesota Vikings. So what does the defense look like under Zimmer? I think they'll be fine. I don't know if they'll be as good as they were with Quinn, but they have most of the same pieces. And when you have Micah Parsons and Diggs comes back, you still have Lawrence. Like, they should be good. Like, they should be fine. We'll go. Let's see. We already talked about Dak. I'm not going to continue to hit that home. McCarthy has to be on the hot seat. I can't believe he wasn't fired after last year. If he doesn't win a playoff game this year, he's gone. Should be gone. Should have been gone. Don't know why he was really ever hired in the first place. That's neither beside the point. I like Mike McCarthy. Just don't think he's the future coach for the Cowboys. Jerry Jones said this offseason that they were going to go all in to make more money is what he fucking meant. Because that dude, they did nothing to improve their roster. They're arguably worse this year than they were last year. Jerry's all-in comment is just for people that do stuff like me to eat it up and talk more about the fucking Cowboys. I'm not going to be a person that just talks about the Cowboys every single day because they do numbers. If they're relevant, I will talk about them. I already told you I think Dak Prescott's a hell of a quarterback. I like CeeDee Lamb. He was my number 1 pick in fantasy last year. I like Mike Parsons. I like Diggs. But in terms of the media coverage they get, I fucking hate the Cowboys. And I think most of us do. And that's why we all love to watch them lose. But we like them to be good in the regular season because if they lose in the playoffs, it makes it even more better. Return of Trayvon Diggs this year. Excited to see him back after that big year. It's crazy enough that I'm even saying this, but they add Zeke Elliott back to this roster. Wild. I don't know what that's going to look like. They also add Dalvin Cook, but they're starting a rookie running back. His name escapes me right now. He won the job. He's the number one running back over Zeke and over Dalvin Cook. We'll see what the running back room ends up playing out to be. He also had Eric Kendricks on defense, 10th season, spent last year with the Chargers. We'll see what that team looks like. You lose Tyron Smith. I mentioned that with the Jets. 13 years in Dallas, definitely will be a potential Ring of Honor guy there, but weird not seeing Big 77 with those knee braces on his elbows playing left tackle for the Cowboys. All right, let's talk Eagles. Maybe the weirdest season of all last year. 11-6, lost to the Bucs in the wild card. They fucking started 10-1 after losing the Super Bowl, which doesn't happen. People don't start 10-1 after losing the Super Bowl. It's very rare. But then they just shit the bed and they lost 6 of the final 7 games. I don't know what to even say about this team right now. They were 8th in total offense last year. I don't know if this is being talked about enough. They have 2 new coordinators again. They had 2 new coordinators again last year. And guess what? This is the 3rd straight year Jalen Hurts has had a new offensive coordinator. I don't give a fuck how good Jalen Hurts is. That's not conducive to success at all. Vic Fangio, new defensive coordinator from Miami. They tried to hire him in 22, or maybe they tried to hire him last year. I can't remember. He was a defensive consultant one of those years. I like Fangio. Think he's going to be a massive upgrade for them on the defensive coordinator position. He's obviously coached Ray Lewis and Ed Reed in Baltimore, DC under Jim Harbaugh in San Francisco for those 4 years. 4 years as DC was, Chicago and Khalil Mack. 3 years head coach in Denver. Like, this guy's been around the block, seen a lot of good defensive players. This defense will be good and much more improved last year. They literally could not tackle from the linebacker position last year. Let's hope that improves this season. Kellen Moore comes over from the Chargers. Now, I could say a lot of things about Kellen Moore, but I will not, because I think he's a decent offensive coordinator that when you lose Herbert last year, fuck are you supposed to do? 7th year as an OC. A lot of those Cowboys teams with Dak, Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator for those teams when they were the number 1 offense in the league. He loves to throw the ball, though. Eagles' most success when they went to the Super Bowl was they were running the fuck out of the ball with Steichen and Hurts. Hurts was running that tush push. They were running that read option, and he was running the shit out of the ball. Yeah, he was throwing it deep to A.J. Brown, but he was running the shit out of the ball. We'll see what Kellen Moore does with Hurts and Saquon now. Like, what? We talked about Derrick Henry and Lamar. We talked about Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. And now we have Hurts and Saquon together. Sign me up, dude. I'm excited about this. Very excited about this. But we'll find out if Saquon was worth paying top running back market money to. We will find out. I think he is, because I think Saquon is probably second best running back in the NFL when he's fully healthy. We'll see if he was worth it, though. Sirianni has to be on the hot seat. Has to be on the hot seat. They wanted the fan base wanted him fired after last year. Remember, Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. What was that, 2-3 years later, they fired his ass? If Sirianni doesn't succeed this year, he will be fired, which is crazy to think about. And then, no Kelsey. No Jason Kelsey. I'm sad about it. As much as you can enjoy watching a center play football, I did. Kelsey is very fun to watch. I'll miss watching him play, but they're going to miss his leadership more than anything. They will miss his leadership more than anything. Called out every single scheme on the defensive end. Called out the Mike linebacker, you name it. Jason Kelsey's first ballot Hall of Famer. But what they're not talking about, Fletcher Cox is gone too. Fletcher Cox on that defensive end is gone too. Him and Kelsey were the anchors of that team. I believe Nick Sirianni said in an interview that he had so much success early on in his career because he had Fletcher Cox on the defensive line and Jason Kelsey on the offensive line. They're both gone now. So who replaces them in terms of leadership? Who replaces them in terms of production? We'll find out. I still expect the Eagles to be really good. They got a damn good offensive line. They got a damn good defense. They add Mekhi Becton, new starting guard, former first-round pick of the Jets. Played only 1 game from 2021 to 2022 due to injury, but he played all 16 last year. They're going to move him to guard. He was a tackle originally. Absolute monster. I think he's like 6'7", 3 something. He's an absolute beast. And then they get to Jahan Dotson a couple weeks ago. They traded a third and 2 sevens for Dotson to be their third, string wide receiver. Dude's got crazy skills, and now he's going to be getting the third corner after Devontae and A.J. Brown. He'll have a nice year. Bryce Huff, last 4 years of the Jets, 10 sacks for the Jets last season. Like that pickup on their D-line. Devin White comes over from Tampa Bay. I just mentioned the linebacker problem. They couldn't fucking tackle. Well, this is a guy that's got 566 tackles in his career. They will be just fine. And then I know Eagles fans are excited about Quinyon Mitchell, their first-round cornerback pickup from Toledo. Excited to see what this back end looks like with him and Slay and a couple of those other guys back there as well. Lou Swift in the backfield, but Saquon's got to be an upgrade for them. Let's talk Giants quickly. We'll talk Giants. 6-11 last year. Literally a dog shit team. 29th in offense, 27th in defense. I genuinely do not understand how they paid Daniel Jones. I get it. If you don't have a franchise quarterback, you suck. Well, they suck and claim they have a franchise quarterback. So this has to be his final season, right? If he sucks again this year, how can they honestly validate bringing him back to start again next year? You can't fucking do it. Can't do it. Can he even save his job? Even if he plays well, can they warrant keeping him if they get another high pick with that quarterback class that's coming out next year? He's only played a full season one time. He obviously won that playoff game, which is crazy to think about. That Vikings team that won every one-score game and then just lost to the Giants in the playoffs. 6 games played last season. I can tell you right now, Brian Daboll does not want this guy to be his quarterback. Watch Hard Knocks. He doesn't want him to be his quarterback at all. But this is the first time that Daboll is calling plays since his time as the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. Now, he made Josh Allen kind of into what Josh Allen was, or as we know him to be today. Can he do some of those similar things with Danny Dimes? Doubt it. Doubt it. I'm not a Danny Dimes believer. Turns the ball over way too much. Way too much. What is the direction of this franchise? They're going into their 100th season. 100th season. And this is the first time they've had a head coach entering year 3 since Coughlin. Tom Coughlin. He retired. He left in 2015. This is the first time they've had a coach going into year 3. So I like Daboll. I originally wanted him to be the Chargers coach when we hired Staley. I was like, give me the guy that orchestrated Josh Allen's offense. We hired Staley. He ends up going there, obviously. So we'll see. Is he the future coach for them? I don't know. Is Joe Shane, who also came over from Buffalo, the future GM? Better than fucking Gettleman, that's for sure. But we'll find out. I just don't know what the direction of this franchise is. I really don't. Until they find a quarterback, they have no direction, if you ask me. They did add some pretty sick players this offseason. Malik Neighbors. Unreal. 89 catches, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns at LSU last year. There's a reason he was picked right behind Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot of people said those guys were interchangeable. We'll find out how good Malik can be with Danny Dimes. They also get Brian Burns. They traded him for a second and a fifth, 46 career sacks in 80 games. We'll talk about how bad Carolina fucked that trade up when we get to Carolina. But I like Brian Burns, adds some nice depth to their defensive line. And then they obviously get Drew Lock as well to be their backup quarterback. Was injured a little bit in preseason. But if Danny Dimes can't stay healthy, no offense, I love me some Tommy DeVito, some Tommy Cutlets. But Drew Lock's way better quarterback than Tommy DeVito. And then they get Devin Singletary to play running back as well. 20 touchdowns in 5 seasons. We'll see. He's not going to replace Saquon. They got to do it by committee there. First full season without Leonard Williams as well. That's why they got Brian Burns. So there you go. There's your Giants breakdown. God, I hope Danny Dimes can play better this year because, in my opinion, the Giants are a flagship franchise in the NFL. When they're good, it elevates the league. So they need to get back to some semblance of being a respectable organization in the NFL. Washington, 4-13 record last year. They were ranked dead fucking last in defense last year. No shit, they fired all their coaches. And no shit, they bring in a defensive head coach. Dan Quinn comes over. Everything is brand new. Second-year owner, first-year GM, head coach, and coordinators. Dan Quinn, 3 seasons as Dallas DC. Top 10 points, ranked top 10 in points per game, net yards allowed, sacks, interceptions, third down conversion percentage, all of them. Ranked top 10 in all of them while he was in Dallas. So this dude is an elite defensive coordinator. 5 seasons in Atlanta, obviously, took them to the Super Bowl, 28-3. We'll just leave that at what it is. It's been hashed enough times. Joe Witt Jr. is their new DC. He was with Dallas, or he was with Quinn in Dallas the last 3 years. So those guys are familiar. We'll probably see a similar scheme there. And then Cliff Kingsbury, baby. He is their new offensive coordinator. Now, you're probably going to say Cliff Kingsbury sucked as the Arizona head coach, blah, 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 blah. Miss me with it. That dude got Kyler Murray to play really good football. And when has Arizona been that great of a football team? I think Cliff Kingsbury is an offensive coordinator. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is a head coach. Now, he was with USC last year. What was his role? What was he? A senior offensive analyst? Basically just means he just did everything that Lincoln Riley needed him to do. And he helped Caleb develop and get better. I just told you the 4 seasons in Arizona as the head coach. Whatever, they were what they were. They trade Josh Rosen and draft Kyler Murray for him. But this is a guy that's coached Mahomes and Johnny Manziel. And now he gets Jaden Daniels. Definitely the most agile and mobile of those 3. And maybe the best deep ball thrower too, in terms of when he coached them. Remember, he coached Mahomes at Texas Tech, Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. Relax, I'm not talking about Mahomes right now. You fucking sickos. Jaden Daniels, Heisman Trophy winner last year, 3,800 passing yards, 40 touchdowns, 4 picks. Pretty good, right? Well, he also had 1,100 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. Dude had 50 touchdowns and 4 turnovers last year and 4,900 yards. The dude is a freak show. An absolute freak show. Now, he's listed at 6'4", 210. I call bullshit. Ain't no way he's 210. If he is, hell yeah. But I don't think he's 210. Will he be able to take the hits in the league? You go back and look at some of those hits he took in LSU. Got up every time, but they look nasty. And he's not getting hit by Derwin James, or he's not getting hit by some of the hardest hitters in the league. Denzel Perriman, all these guys, these big time hitters, So we'll see. We'll see what happens. He's not getting hit by these D linemen named Myles Garrett and TJ Watt at LSU. We'll find out. I expect Jaden Daniels to be very, very good this year. The kid's so electric. He's going to be so fun to watch. I think this could potentially be one of the most fun teams to watch, strictly because of Jaden Daniels. And I think I might pick him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, because I think the Bears might ask Caleb to do less than what Jaden must do in order for them to win games. They had Austin Eckler in the backfield, 38 touchdowns combined in 2021-2022. A little bit of a down year last year, only 6 touchdowns, 1,000 yards total in rushing and receiving. Looked like he slowed down a little bit. Remember, I'm a Charger fan. I watched this guy. I used to call him Austin Electric because he was electrifying when he would get the ball in his hands. Wasn't as electric last year. We'll see if he can bounce back. I know he was dealing with some injuries last year. I still like Eckler there in the backfield for them. They also get a veteran tight end, Zach Ertz, 7 games for Arizona last season. See if he can get back to some of that form he had in Philly. They get Noah Brown from the Texans, 33 catches, 567, and 2 touchdowns last year for Houston. They draft Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother, in the 3rd round. Like his intangibles, not listed as a starter, but could see some playing time depending on how things shake out. My favorite player they picked up in the offseason, they drafted him, Mikey Sanders still. Cornerback, Michigan. Dude that had the pick 6 in the national championship game. I think it was a pick 6. He had a pick in the 90 for sure. But when you listen to Jim Harbaugh talk about the guys that led that defense at Michigan, Mikey Sanders still is one of the first names that come out of his mouth. I believe those Mikey's glasses are the Cartier shades that Harbaugh was wearing during the acceptance trophy. This guy is a dog, one of the smartest players in college football last year. I, as a Chargers fan, was dying that we could get him. Huge pickup for Washington. He'll start right away. He will start right away, and he will be a damn good corner for them right away. They pick up Tyler Biadasz from the Cowboys and Nick Allegretti from the Chiefs to go on their offensive line. Great pickups for them to help protect Jaden Daniels. And then they get Bobby Wagner, who's reunited with Dan Quinn. Obviously, he spent all that time with Quinn in Seattle in those Legion of Boom teams. He'll lead their defense. Love that for them. 3 new starters in the secondary. I mentioned Sanders still. Jeremy Chin and Mikey Davis, who comes over from the Chargers as well. And then all new linebacking core as well. Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, who comes over from Carolina, I believe, and then Dante Fowler Jr. as well. So Dan Quinn basically came in here and said, I hate your defense. Give me all the guys that I need. There's your NFC East breakdown. I'm picking the Eagles to win this division. I don't think the Cowboys got better. As good as I think, CD and Dak and Mike Parsons are. I think the Eagles are a better team. I think they bounce back this year. I like their new coordinators. I like Saquon Barkley. I got the Eagles winning this division. Wasn't really that tough for me to decide. Let's talk NFC North now. The team of 2023 in the NFL was the Detroit Lions. 12-5 record, won the division for the first time in 30 years. Playoff win for the first time in 32 years. I'm getting chills right now thinking about that Detroit crowd in those games. That was special, truly special. I thought they were going to the playoffs, or I thought they were going to the Super Bowl, excuse me. They ranked third in total defense, or total offense, excuse me. Second passing offense, fifth rushing. Really balanced attack. When you have Jahmyr Gibbs and why am I blanking on his name? When you have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, damn good tandem there, and then Goff and Amon-Ra go career years there. My biggest question is can they do it again? How good really are they? And is this truly, as Evan Foxy would say of the Pat McAfee Show, is this truly the brand new Lions? We find out this year. If you ask me, fuck yeah. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFC, and I'm picking them to go to the Super Bowl. That is a little bit of a spoiler because I basically just told you they're winning the division too. But I'm picking the fucking Lions to go to the Super Bowl. I think this is a damn good football team. They should have beat the Niners in the playoffs in the NFC Championship game last year. They didn't, though. They didn't. And they got to do it again this year. And this time, they ain't surprising anybody. Everybody knows how good this team is. Can Goff go again another great year this year? I think he can because I think Goff's a damn good quarterback and doesn't get the respect that he deserves. That's neither here nor there. Also, Jamison Williams, kid they drafted 2 years ago from Bama. Didn't play that whole first year pretty much. Played sparingly last year. I think there was a suspension mixed in there or something like that last year for gambling. If this dude is fully healthy and they mix him into the offense, watch out. He was a monster at Alabama his last year there with Bryce Young. I think if he's fully healthy and can be their number two, the Lions offense can be even better than it was last year. Can the defense take a jump? 19th last year. That was probably their biggest bugaboo last year was their defense. Their offense was disgusting, and their defense would kind of have moments where they would lose them games or they needed a big stop and wouldn't get it. Can they meet the expectations of the Super Bowl? Maybe. We'll find out. I don't know. I hope so. Fucking Lions are fun to watch. Biggest thing for this Lions team and why I'm picking them to not only go to the Super Bowl, but be the number one seed. They have 3 games outside in the entire regular season. 3. Green Bay, San Francisco, Chicago. Every other game is in a dome. Every single other game is in a dome. This team is, and Jared Goff specifically, is very good in a dome. I'm not saying he can't play in weather. I think that's just dumb. But in a dome always favors a quarterback. There's no weather. So 14 of their 17 regular season games in a dome, that has to favor any team, especially a team that's this good and explosive offensively. Kevin Zeitler added to the offensive line. Last 3 years in Baltimore, entering his 13th season. They get Terrion Arnold as their first-round pick cornerback from Bama. He had 6 picks last year. He'll be a starter. He'll help that back end for sure. And then their big pickup on the D-line is DJ Reader, who I said was a massive loss for Cincinnati and is a gigantic pickup for the Lions. 9th season, 4 with Houston, 4 with Cincy. He had 23 tackles for loss and 9.5 sacks in those years. All he does is stuff the run. Guy just eats up the run, dude, and just... I love this pickup for them. And then you get Marcus Davenport on that line as well, former first-round pick of the Saints. He's got 23.5 sacks in 67 career games. So they've revamped that D-line to stop the run and to get after the passer. And then next to Arnold, they also had Carlton Davis, who not only won 2 Super Bowls with Tampa, but has 9 picks, 3 forced fumbles, and 73 pass deflections in 76 career games. Damn good corner. Solid as fuck. Love that dude. He basically takes CJ Gardner-Johnson's spot. So there's your Lions preview. this team's going to be good unless Goff gets hurt. Then they'll suck. Packers, 9-8 last year. Tale of two seasons. Lost to the 49ers in the divisional round. They started 3-6. They were bad last year. And then they just turned it on. Regular season, they finished 6-2. Blow out the Cowboys in the playoffs. Almost upset the Niners. 11 total offense. Defense was pretty average last year, and they bring in Jeff Hafley, former head coach at Boston College, who just got a big win Monday night. Shout out Billy O'Brien. He was the Boston College head coach for the past 4 seasons. He spent 7 seasons coaching the NFL, though, from 2012 to 2018. DB coached in San Francisco and Cleveland. Also coached in Tampa. So this guy's got experience coaching the NFL. My little brother is a big Packers fan. He's very excited. I know the fan base is very excited to see what this new defense can look like. I believe Joe Barry was their defensive coordinator last year. Ty Schmidt from the Pat McAfee Show hates that dude. So we'll see if Jeff Hafley is the answer. A lot of college coaches saying, fuck it. I don't want to deal with this NIL transfer portal bullshit anymore. I'll just coach real football. What does year 2 look like under Love? Remember, he wasn't that good in the regular season last year. He really wasn't. Like in the beginning half of the season, like he was just pretty average, and then turned it on to a fucking crazy level. Crazy level at the end of last year. Youngest team in football they were last year, and they almost go into San Fran. They almost won 2 road playoff games last year. Ridiculous. How good are the wide receivers? Watson, Dobbs, Reed, Wicks. They got like 4 or 5 of them, dude. How good are they? I think Watson and Dobbs both missed times last year because of injuries, but I think Dobbs is their number 1 if he's healthy, and Watson is the guy that breaks the game open for them. Wicks and the other guys are very, very solid as well, but they have so much depth there, and they're all young. All of them are young. So we'll see. I like their wide receivers. I think they take another jump this year to make them even better. And then my big question is, Josh Jacobs going to be a massive upgrade over Aaron Jones? I don't know. Could be. I like Josh Jacobs a lot, but I also like Aaron Jones a lot. Like, Aaron Jones had a hell of a career for the Packers. Josh Jacobs led the NFL in rushing in 22. It's 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns and 4.9 a carry. 4 of his 5 seasons, he's averaged at least 4 yards a carry. Only played 13 games last year, 800 yards, 6 touchdowns. I like this pickup, especially you get a veteran back with all those young skill players. I think Jacobs has a big time year for Green Bay without a doubt. I just think he I don't know how big of an upgrade over Aaron Jones, but Josh Jacobs top 10 back in the league without a doubt. They get Malik Willis to be their backup. Who cares? We'll never see him play unless Love gets hurt. They had Xavier McKinney on the back end, and then they also added a new kicker from NC State, Braden Narvison. And you're like, Parker, why the fuck are you talking about a kicker? P-Way, why are you talking about a kicker? It's like, dude, they play in Green Bay, dog. They need a fucking good kicker. Mason Crosby was a great kicker for them for a long time. They need a good kicker in that weather. 6 of 7 in preseason for him. Can he be the kicker for them in the future? I believe they have Anders Carlson or something like that last year, who didn't work out for them, but it is what it is. They lose Aaron Jones, Rasul Douglas, Devondre Campbell. They replaced all those guys. I think this Packers team easily should win 10 games this year, but can they be better than the Lions in the division? That is the biggest question for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they win the division, but I would be a little bit surprised. I'll be honest. Like, I'll be, okay, wow, Packers did it in year 2 with Love, young team. But I think the Lions do it. Packers make the playoffs, though. No doubt about that. All right. Let's talk the team of the offseason, the team that pretty much everyone's been talking about. Hard Knocks, number 1 overall draft pick. Chicago Bears, bear down, baby. 7-10 record, 20th total offense last year. They were the number 1 rushing defense last year, though. Number 1 rushing defense. 12 total, tied for first in interceptions with 22. This defense balled the fuck out at the end of the last year. Storylines, come on. There's one storyline bigger than anything else in all of Chicago, and that's Caleb Williams. This team has not had a franchise quarterback. I don't know how long. They won a Super Bowl with Jim McMahon. That was a defensive team, and Walton Payton was their best player. I don't know when the last time this team's had a franchise quarterback, if ever. This could be their first true game-changing, elite top 5 in the world quarterback. I think Caleb's that good. You probably don't. Some of you probably do. Just depends on what you've read about him. Because there's been a lot of bullshit put out there about him that he wanted a fucking part owner of the team, and then he wanted this and he wanted that and he wanted that. All that shit, none of it was true. All of it were rumors. This dude is a football player. A dog, too. Yeah, he cried when they lost last year. Imagine putting up 50 points every single fucking week and your team can't get a stop. You know, whatever. I expect Caleb Williams to ball the fuck out. Him or Jaden Daniels will win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But can Caleb Williams take this team to the playoffs? Maybe. Possibly the best roster of a rookie quarterback's had in ever. They give you Keenan Allen. They draft you Rome Odunze. They get you DeAndre Swift. You already have DJ Moore. Get Gerald Everett. Get a new center. They might be able to make the playoffs. They play in a really good division. But if they can get the defense that they got at the end of last year and do it this year again with a better offense, who knows? 2 new coordinators as well. Shane Waldron, 3 seasons in Seattle as the offensive coordinator, helped develop Jared Goff. What's the future of Eberflus? 10-24 this guy's record is in the first 2 years. 10-24. Not many guys keep their jobs through 34 games, winning only 10. But the defense fucking loves him. Franchise likes him. If he can win some ball games this year, Flus will be around for a while with that sweet beard and his fucking slick back hair. I like Flus. He's a good DC in Indianapolis as well. I hope he doesn't get fired, but they got to win. They got to win. DeAndre Swift, new running back, like him. 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns with the Eagles last year. This one hurts to even say. Keenan Allen, man, I cannot believe he's a Chicago Bear. In 11 seasons in the NFL, Keenan's got 900 catches, 10,000 yards, and 59 touchdowns. 5 of his 7 years over 1,000 yards, and he had 1,200 yards, 108 catches, 7 touchdowns in just 13 games last year. Anybody at home that thinks Keenan Allen's not a top 10 receiver, fuck off. You haven't watched as much Chargers football as I have. In terms of route runners in the NFL, there's only 2 other guys, in my opinion, that are in the same conversation. 3 that are in the same conversation with Keenan Allen. Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen. Those are my 4. If I'm talking route runners in the NFL, those are my 4. My personal 4. Keenan's that good, if you ask me. Can he stay healthy? There's been all this bullshit report about he's gained 20 pounds in the offseason. That dude's one of the hardest workers in the room. Keenan Allen will be just fine. I expect him to ball out. Rome Odunze, 9th overall pick from Washington. 92 catches, led the nation with 1,640 yards last year. He was disgusting at Washington with Michael Penix Jr. Dog, great culture fit for them. Be great in the community. I love Rome Odunze. Seems like a really good guy. Mom supports him really well. They got Gerald Everett as their new tight end. Ryan Bates, new starting center. 19 career starts in 5 seasons in Buffalo. Kevin Byard, get him on the back end. 2-time first-team All-Pro. And then the guy that nobody's going to talk about that they drafted, but I will. Torrey motherfucking Taylor. Punter. Iowa. Yeah, I said punter. 127 punts inside the 20. That's an NCAA all-time, 43% of his punts inside the 20. 127 of them. NCAA record for career punt average. They play in Chicago outside, don't they? Flipping the field. Field position. Huge when you have a good defense, too. This motherfucker, Torrey Taylor, will flip the field on a dime in a heartbeat. What a pickup for the Bears. It makes their defense even better because he will help put their defense in even more advantageous positions. All right, that's enough on the Bears. Sorry, I got excited about a kicker or about a punter there. Vikings, 7-10 last year. Can you believe this? They ranked 10th in total offense last year. They missed the final 10. Kirk missed the final 10 weeks of the season. Jefferson was out from week 6 to 12, and they still ranked 10th in offense. That shows you how fucking good of a coach Kevin O'Connell is. He is a top 8 coach in this league, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it if you ask me. 16th in total defense. We'll see. Middle of the pack there. Obviously, out goes Kirk. In comes Sam Darnold. Now, a lot of you already have preconceived opinions on Sam Darnold because of his time in New York, because of his time in Carolina. He spent last season in maybe quarterback university, and that's Kyle Shanahan. In that one game he did play against the Ravens. Now, granted, it was mop-up time. Played pretty good, though. Looked pretty good. Looked like a different quarterback out there. More confident. Threw it with a little more velocity. Was accurate out there. People also forget Sam Darnold. First 4 games he was in Carolina, I think he had like 4 rushing touchdowns. Dude can scoot a little bit. He can move it. He can move a little bit. I don't think they're going to ask him to move a lot, but we'll see. And does it take the pressure off Darnold now that J.J. McCarthy's out for the whole season? Is this Darnold's team for the whole year? All 17? I think it should be. Who the fuck else are they going to play? They're not playing J.J., so he's hurt. I'm bummed about that. I wanted to see J.J. this year. But maybe Sam Darnold can be this year's Baker Mayfield. And before last year, a bunch of you probably would have said there ain't no way Baker Mayfield will ever be good at football again, let alone be a starter. Now he just got a $100 million deal. I think Sam Darnold has the potential to be a Baker Mayfield-like season this year. What does their offense look like full season if they can keep Jefferson and Addison healthy? I like that. I like that combo. Helps Darnold. Helps Darnold a lot. If you have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. We'll see what happens. And what does the D-line look like without Danielle Hunter? What a loss. That D-line is nowhere near as good now that they lost Danielle Hunter. But they did add new pieces on the back end. Danielle was there for 8 years, but they had Andrew Van Ginkel from Miami. Excuse me. 250 tackles in 73 games. They get Jonathan Grenard from Houston. 41 QB hits, 23 sacks, 32 TFLs in 48 games. So that's their Danielle Hunter replacement. And then they just signed Stephon Gilmore in late August. He's going into his 13th season. Obviously won the Defensive Player of the Year in 2019. 17 starts for Dallas last year. Thought he played really well in that Dallas defense last year. You get Shaquille Griffin. Spent the last 2 years in Houston and Carolina. Nice little back end piece for them. But it's a tough division. And they're the 4th team in this division. No questions asked. And I think it's because of the quarterback. I'm not saying Sam Darnold isn't good, but he's not Goff, he's not Love, and he's not Caleb. So how do they replace Cousins? What does the team look like without Danielle Hunter on the defensive end? We'll find out. Who am I picking to win this division? Of course I'm picking the fucking Lions. To the Super Bowl, too. Number 1 seed, Super Bowl, Lions, book it. All right. One more division left to play, boys and girls. NFC South preview. Division of straight mediocrity and ass last year, if we're being honest. You're talking about 2-9-8 teams, a 7-10 team, and then the Panthers. We're 2-15, bro. I mean, we'll start with the Falcons because they made the most noise in the offseason. They were 7-10 last year, 17th in offense, 11th in defense. Fire Arthur Smith. They bring in Raheem Morris. Sorry, I got my defensive coordinators mixed up there. They bring in Raheem Morris, who I like. A lot of energy. Still a young coach. Last 3 years of the Rams, DC, they're pretty good defense last 3 years. I just think it was time for something new in Atlanta. Arthur Smith did his best, but he never had a fucking quarterback. What are you supposed to win football games with Desmond Ridder, who was just cut by the Cardinals? Come on, guys. I don't know. But we'll see. What is Kirk Cousins? Does he unlock this offense? All we talk about for the last 2-3 years is the amount of skill players that the Falcons have. Kyle Pitts drafted in the top 10. Drake London drafted in the top 10. Bijan Robinson drafted in the top 10. And yet, none of them look like top 10 picks. Maybe Bijan a little bit, but he didn't get the ball enough last year. Can Kirk unlock this offense? Get Kyle Pitts the ball. Get Drake London the ball. Can they do it? I hope so, because it'll be really fun to watch. And I think Kirk will make this team a lot better this year. What's the new identity? I think the identity will be hard-nosed defense, man. The ATL. We got to play defense out here. Year 2, Bijan Robinson. Please give him the fucking ball a lot. Please. Falcons, if you're listening, I want to see Bijan ball out this year. I expect them to have a massive year. We just talked about Pitts in London. It's all about Kirk. If Kirk is healthy, they should play much better. And then, what's the plan with Michael Penix Jr.? For all we know, Kirk is scheduled to play week 1, and he will play week 1. But Kirk's older, 36, coming off an Achilles. If he gets hurt and Penix balls, do they go back to Kirk? We'll see. I hope we don't have to see Penix this year because that means Kirk was healthy, and you don't ever wish injury on anybody. But if we see Michael Penix this year, it could get electrifying quickly. They had Judon as well. They acquired him in August for a 3rd-round pick. He only played 4 games in 23, though, but he had 28 sacks combined in 21 and 22. So if they can get that version of him back, their defense will be really good. Justin Simmons as well. I can't believe this guy was a free agent for as long as he was. He signed in late August as well. 2nd-team All-Pro in 4 of the last 5 seasons, and the Broncos just let him walk. 30 picks, 64 pass deflections in 118 games. I think Justin Simmons is one of the best safeties in the league. And they got him for pretty cheap. Like, that's not a bad deal at all. They pick up Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod for some wide receiver depth. I already told you they moved on from Desmond Ridder. Jonnu Smith left, Calais Campbell, Bud Dupree, and Jeff Okudah. So, they replaced most of the guys that they left, and they added some new pieces that I really, really like. Let's talk Tampa Bay now. Buccaneers, baby. 9-8. Made the playoffs last year with Baker in year 1. Beat the Eagles 32-9. And then they lost to the Lions in the divisional round. They started 4-7, but then finished the regular season 5-1. Baker really turned it on. They were 23rd in offense and defense last year. They were pretty bad for most of the year, to be honest. Like, let's be honest, they were bad. Baker's now firmly the franchise quarterback. 3 years, $100 million. Pretty much screams like, hey, we're riding with Baker, and I'm very happy about that. I think Baker deserves that job. I think he earned that job, and I think he should be the franchise quarterback for that team. New offensive coordinator, Liam Cohn. He's the offensive coordinator at Kentucky in 21 and 23. He's the Rams OC in 2022. You might remember that was the year Baker signed on 2 days' notice and then won that Thursday night football game. So there's some familiarity there with the offensive coordinator and Baker. They are starting a rookie center, though, in Graham Barton. We'll see how that plays out. Tampa Bay usually has a pretty solid line. They have a good offensive line coach there. So center feels like one of the easier offensive line positions if you have to transition and play as a rookie. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's better than left tackle. Mike Evans. He's played in the league for 10 years. All 10 years, 1,000 yards. If he goes 1,000 again this year, he ties Jerry Rice for the longest streak ever of 1,000-yard seasons with 11. And he's done it his first 11 seasons. That's ridiculous. Mike Evans is so slept on. First ballot Hall of Famer. Well, he'll get 1,000 this year if he stays healthy. He will get 1,000 this year if he stays healthy. And then Jason Light. I couldn't believe this stat when a buddy sent it to me. The GM, Jason Light, is the key to their success. 26 of 30 draft picks in the past 4 seasons are on the roster. And 22 of 23 from the last 3 drafts are all on the roster. Every starter, not named Baker Mayfield and Ben Brenderson, were drafted by Tampa. That is elite stuff from Jason Light. That is how you build a football team. You draft, you develop, you start, you pay them. Love that from Jason Light. Wanted to bring that to your guys' attention about what makes the Bucs been so successful and what made Tom Brady so attracted to that team so many years ago was the consistency of what their franchise is with Jason Light and the players that they bring in. All right, let's talk about additions. Jordan Whitehead, he's back in Tampa. He was on that Super Bowl defense. He spent 2 years with the Jets, 55 starts for Tampa from 18 to 21. Like that he's back in there. He'll be comfortable there. Familiar with that system. Jalen McMillan, 3rd-round pick from Washington. He had 79 catches for 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns in 2022 at UW. A little bit of an injuries there last year. I think he'll be a nice piece to that lineup next to Godwin and Evans. And then Yaya Diaby on their defensive line. Now, he was a rookie last year, but 6.5 of his 7.5 sacks and 10 of his 12 TFLs came after week 8 last year. So the guy really came on strong at the end of last year. If they can get him and Joe Shoyinka to play really well together, they might have two bookend ends that can be really consistent rushing the quarterback from them. And then my buddy, who's a big Bucs fan, told me I had to talk about this guy, Cameron Johnson. He's from D2 Barton College. So I guess the Bucs attended his pro day and they loved him so much. And now he's going to be like a slot kind of return player for them. And that's what I was talking about in the open with the new kickoff. The returner is back in the NFL now. For the longest time, the returner kind of went away. The Josh Cribbs of the world. They kind of went away. They're back now, and the Bucs are proving that with this guy, Cameron Johnson here. Excited to see if he can get some rub, make a name for himself this year. Departures, two key ones. They lose Devin White from that linebacking core, and then Shaq Barrett, who they released, who eventually retired once he signed with Miami. Both those guys were on the championship team. They'll miss that production from them now. Okay, let's talk Saints. New Orleans, 9-8, 14th offense, 13th defense. Literally just the definition of a mid team. I think this is the final year for Derek Carr. I really do. No problems with Derek Carr as a person. I think he's a decent quarterback. But, I mean, he had 3,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 picks last year. But it's the most uninspiring football you fucking ever watched, dude. It's so uninspiring. Like, you turn on a Saints game and you're like, they scored? Okay. Doesn't look like anybody gives a fuck. There's no energy. I don't know how to explain it. The Saints just bore me to death. I think this is the last year for Derek Carr because I think this is the last year for Dennis Allen, their head coach. This dude is 24-46 as a head coach. How the fuck is he a head coach in the NFL? He sucks. Like, he is not a good head coach in the NFL whatsoever. So I think Carr and Allen, both, this is their last year, and it has to be time for a full-blown rebuild. It has to be time. They try to do this fake rebuild, once Sean Payton left and get Derek Carr and do all that and stay relevant. Tear it the fuck down and rebuild it, please. You're not doing anything by getting, the 13th, 14th pick in the draft and not getting any better and staying mediocre all year. I think it's time for a full-blown rebuild. And I think it happens this year after they stink. There's a playoff appearance this year, which would be crazy. They'd have to win the division. They're not getting a wild card spot. Does it actually hurt the team long term? Fuck yeah, it does. For all the reasons I just said. They need to rebuild and start this thing from the ground up. They need to find a quarterback. Kamara and Cameron Jordan are getting older. They need receivers. Like they need, I guess they have Olave and Shaheed, but they need pieces. They still have Lattimore on the defense, but they need to rebuild this thing. And they need to do it sooner rather than later. The only issue is their division isn't very good. So like they can still honestly sit there and probably say like, hey, I think we can win the division. Whatever. They're not gonna. New OC is Clinton Kubiak. San Francisco's offensive pass game specialist last year. 1 season in Denver, 3 seasons in Minnesota. He's the son of Gary Kubiak, so he'll know that spread offense, West Coast offense really well. But does he have the quarterback to run it? Will they play Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler, the 2 backup quarterbacks, if Carr struggles? Fuck yeah, they should. Jake Haener, Fresno State kid, balled out in the preseason. Rattler had a really good camp and a good preseason, was highly touted coming out of high school. If Carr stinks, they should bench him and play one of the younger guys just to see what they have. Additions, they got Chase Young, $13 million fully guaranteed. 7 games for Washington last year, 9 games for San Francisco, 7.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. Does nothing for me. Doesn't play hard at all. Kind of sad because he was a beast at Ohio State, but maybe that's because he was so much better than everybody else. They pick up Willie Gay from the Chiefs as well. 1-year deal. Started 47 of 57 games in KC the last 4 years. Really solid linebacker. I know the Chiefs were bummed to lose him, and it's a good pickup there. They got a new left tackle as well, Fuaga, who I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name. First-round pick. And then they got Kool-Aid McKinstry, starting cornerback from Bama in the 2nd round as well. Michael Thomas, finally off the team. I mean, he only played 20 games combined since 2019 when he had the 149 catches. Dude pretty much disappeared from the NFL once he had 149 catches. That's a bummer. Sucks to see Mike Thomas go, but nothing really much there for the Saints. I don't expect them to be very good. All right, Panthers, last but not least, but purposely last. They were 2-5 last year, 2-15, excuse me, last year. The worst team in football by a large margin. 32nd in total offense. Crazy enough, they were actually 4th in total defense, but their offense was so fucking bad they couldn't win any games. The biggest question is, where is Bryce Young's development in year 2? Because he got none last year. None. I don't know what Frank Reich was doing last year. I don't know why the fuck Frank Reich was hired after doing nothing in Indy. I felt bad for Bryce. You know what? I'm going to go to bat for Bryce right now. Remember when Trevor Lawrence had Urban Meyer as his head coach for the first year and we just said that wasn't his rookie year? That's exactly what I'm doing with Bryce Young. Because I watched Bryce Young at Bama for 3 years, and he was one of the best quarterbacks in college football every single year, made plays that very few other quarterbacks can make, one of the most accurate throwers of the football, and can make plays off schedule. The issue is he had no fucking help last year. What do you want him to do? Adam Thielen was their number 1 receiver. Adam Thielen is a damn good wide receiver. He is no longer a number 1 at this point in his career. Their offensive line stunk, and they had no running backs. What did you expect Bryce Young to do? And their owner is throwing a drink on fans in a suite. Come on. This is the most dysfunctional organization in all of football. What do you expect from the kid? Give him some break. Cut him some slack. And now you have Canales, who's there, and he has to make this work. Because if he doesn't, this will go down as probably the worst trade in NFL history, right next to the Herschel Walker trade that gave the Cowboys 3 Super Bowls. They gave up an ungodly amount to get Bryce Young, and the Bears are reaping all the benefits from it. The Panthers must make this work fast, very fast. Can the defense do it again? We'll see. I don't know. I wouldn't expect them to have the 4th best defense in the league again this year. J.C. Horn's a really good corner. We'll find out. I'm not sure. Derek Brown, really good defensive tackle for them, leader of their defense. And how much can the offense improve with the new weapons? So the new weapons, Deontay Johnson, 5 seasons in Pittsburgh, 391 catches, 4,300 yards, 25 touchdowns in 78 games. Hopefully he can catch the ball for them. Dealt with a lot of drops in Pittsburgh. And then they get Xavier Legette. First-round pick from South Carolina, 71 catches, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns last year for South Carolina. And he has every interview, if you're on Twitter, anywhere, and you see Xavier Legette talking, just click on it and enjoy, because he's got the best voice in all of football. Love listening to that guy talk, but he's a dog too. Don't get it twisted. He's a dog. He can play. They need Chuba Hubbard to play better this year. They need their running backs to give production. And then they need A'Shawn Robinson and Jadeveon Clowney to play well on the defensive line next to Derek Brown. We'll see what happens. I don't expect shit from the Panthers at all. Maybe they'll win 4 games, 5 games. I do expect Bryce to be better this year, but I'm picking the Buccaneers to win this division. I thought about going Falcons. Fuck them. Baker Mayfield all day. I'm riding with Baker Mayfield and this Bucs defense combined with Mike Evans in this run game. I'm going to believe in it. It could be a massive mistake, but I'm going to pick Tampa Bay because I think Tampa Bay, no matter what happens, will be in it towards the end. Atlanta as well, if Kirk stays. Even if Kirk doesn't stay healthy, I think Penix will do it. But I'm going to pick Tampa Bay to win this game or to win this division. Don't know how I feel about it, but I'm not picking the Falcons. I don't trust that Cousins will stay healthy all the year, but if he does, they will win the division. That's for damn sure. All right, well, that wraps up your NFC preview as well. I know long first pod for you guys here today. I appreciate you sticking around with me. Before I go, I'm going to give you my Super Bowl pick. I already told you I'm picking the Lions in the NFC. Give me the fucking Bengals. Give me the Bengals. I think Burrow, fuck it. Nope. Yep. Give me the Bengals. Bengals, Lions, Super Bowl. That is what I'm going to pick. The Bengals is sketchy because I'm picking them just because I don't want to pick the Chiefs and be like everybody else Now, do I think the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl? Probably. Um, my Super Bowl pick for this year, Lions. The Detroit Lions win the Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history. That is my prediction for today. That is your AFC, NFC breakdown. That is the first episode of One Way Sports featuring P-Way. Thank you guys once again for joining me. Once again, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we will drop new podcasts. They will not all be this long. I promise you that. Just had to get this first one out, previewing all 32 NFL teams. If you could please like, comment, subscribe, we would appreciate that. And follow us on all the social media channels if you get a chance. That does it for me today. We'll see you guys on Friday.